There is a saying that the old soldier often heard in the army, watch out for falling leaves in your later years. Thinking about that, a tear rolls down his face and he admits sadly, I couldn't do it. This takes us back to 3 days ago at the divisional guerrilla field. The soldier, feeling extremely tired, tells his comrades that he only has 3 days left before his discharge and asks them to go easy on him. He worries because the new platoon leader is coming, and he wonders why he has to deal with this now. The new platoon leader, Kim Shin-im, arrives and seems very stern, thinking the others are being too inflexible. The new leader, Kim Shin-im, makes a strong impression as he appears. Park Byung-jang is called out by the platoon leader. Park Byung-jang responds weakly, but the platoon leader is already demanding a demonstration of the obstacles while he is supposed to be resting. When Park Byung-jang says he's leaving soon, the leader asks if he's already discharged. The platoon leader ignores his request, asking how much slack he thinks he's getting off with, making Park Byung-jang laugh nervously. Park Byung-jang then plots to hide every day starting tomorrow and skip roll calls too. Little did Park Byung-jang know, his body was about to have an end-of-life vacation. He thinks about how after his military service ends, he will change from Special Forces Park Byung-jang to a civilian Park Byung-jang. With a sudden shock, Park Byung-jang pushes hard against the wooden barrier he was leaning on, letting out a strained grunt. With a loud burst of energy, he suddenly pushes himself up with surprising strength. His fellow soldiers watch in shock as this happens. The narrator reveals that Park Byung-jang's body is about to go through a harsh experience. He thinks about becoming a civilian after his discharge, but then there's a loud impact as something heavy lands. He wonders what happened and realizes I tripped. As he tumbles over something, his comrades yell out in alarm, no, Park Byung-jang, and someone shouts about the platoon leader's shuttle. As Park Byung-jang falls face first, the platoon leader looks on impassively as everything goes silent and dark. In the darkness, ethereal voices call out, first dear and then, Mr. Warrior. The calls intensify to Mr. Warrior, causing him to groan with a headache, while another voice urges him to wake up, Warrior. He protests, saying he is just a military reservist, not a warrior, and then wonders if he was seriously injured, thinking this must be a dream. He realizes that he is facing someone called Mr. Warrior, and a glowing figure appears, introducing herself as the goddess Parla, who will lead Mr. The goddess Parla smiles beautifully, saying she understands he has faced many hardships in his previous life. Park Byung-jang starts laughing hysterically at being called Mr. Warrior, much to the goddess's surprise. He continues to laugh, realizing this situation feels too unreal, thinking, this isn't real, it can't be. The scene shifts to the chapter title, 01, before returning to the goddess and the seated soldier. He continues to laugh, thinking it must be a dream because he has seen too much of the world. The goddess then gently asks, excuse me, mister. The goddess is surprised by his continued strange behavior and looks down, questioning Mr. Warrior with a confused expression. He insists, Mr. Warrior, while he continues to laugh, crying out, wake up. He yells at her to stop calling him a warrior, screaming that her name is like a cigarette brand. The goddess, identified as Parla Goddess, looks small and upset. Park Byung-jang cries, lamenting that there were only 3 days left before his discharge. He asks if any of this makes sense, but Parla responds with grace, I understand you, Mr. Warrior, saying this is his first time experiencing this. He sharply corrects her, saying, no, you don't understand, his face etched with pain and tears, telling her not to laugh because she doesn't get it. As he becomes furious, a dark, ominous presence appears behind the goddess and a powerful shockwave erupts. The goddess is shocked as Park Byung-jang grabs her arms, asking what he is doing, while he cries about reading a webtoon called Soggy Jaigi. He argues that based on that story, he should become a warrior in this world. But he is tired from training in his past life and doesn't want to do it again. He tearfully tells her he doesn't want to be saved and that she should have let him rest, calling her a cigarette goddess. Parla is outraged by his insult, proclaiming, how dare you say that? As she glows intensely and he screams that she has finally shown her true colors. He yells, the goddess of nicotine, as Parla, now looking fierce, prepares to act, saying the title of warrior doesn't suit him. A dark, bloody scene unfolds with black tentacles surrounding a glowing figure in golden armor who is supposed to be her warrior. This destined warrior was meant to vanquish evil and save the world, but now Parla declares, but now I won't even give you a single one referring to skills or the honor. Park Byung-jang is horrified as she states, I'm going to send you down, without even a single skill. She prepares to cast him out, saying, I'll send you to the world. like that, but he desperately cries out, "You can't let me leave like that." He roars her name in anger, Parla, as she looks down with a fierce expression. As he lashes out, Parla looks at him with focused eyes. A powerful force hits, and small angelic figures appear, descending from above. These figures seem to control Park Byung-jang with glowing energy strings tied to his hands and arms, making him groan in resistance. He faces the goddess, who challenges him to handle the situation with just his bare body, while her power seems to manifest as blue energy around her hand. A massive circular magical array appears beneath him as he is held suspended, and he looks utterly shocked. She tells him to think of this new experience as more military service, but he desperately screams, "No." He cries out, "How could you say that? Why don't you just kill me again?" Suddenly, he is falling through the sky toward the green earth below, shouting, "Ah." He realizes with wide eyes, is this for real? As he plummets, he keeps falling until he crashes into the forest canopy below with a small burst of fire. The scene shifts back to night with a crescent moon, marking the end of flashback. Park Byung-jang is back under the tree, sitting sadly. He looks up with a strange, almost crazed smile, muttering "ha" and "ha ha ha" before he starts digging into the ground with his hands. He then carefully places a small stick upright in the dirt. The stick stands like a tiny gravestone, and Park Byung-jang kneels before it with his hands clasped as if in prayer. He seems to be celebrating with an excited, slightly manic tone, offering congratulations on his discharge, almost like a ghostly reception. He continues his bizarre celebration, congratulating himself, and then lets out a sigh while looking at the makeshift grave under the night sky. He looks up to the moon, standing over the small marker, and the narration states that after 3 days in the world, this has happened. The final image shows a close-up of Sergeant Park crying tears of both sadness and perhaps relief. As the caption confirms, Sergeant Park got discharged today. The story begins by showing a vast green landscape with hills in the background, moving closer to a dense forest area. Then, the focus narrows down to the base of some large trees where a man named Park Byung-jang lies unconscious on the ground, groaning that he feels like he is going to die. As he wakes up, he remembers being so hungry that he ate whatever he could find, even a strange mushroom, wondering if it was poisonous. He clearly remembers being ecstatic, thinking he was lucky not to have been poisoned, but then an unseen voice comments that eating like that is not human. The voice repeats that this is not what a human should do. Park Byung-jang looks around, confused about the lack of anything edible, only seeing grass, while an unseen force notes that monsters were avoiding him due to his strange fighting aura he possesses. Still feeling weak and hungry, he wishes to live, and then his eyes snap open in a moment of intense feeling, possibly anger or desperation. Tears stream down his face as he cries out to a goddess, admitting that everything that happened was his fault. He screams for forgiveness, confessing that he vented his anger on the goddess earlier. He shouts that he doesn't need protection, only food, or at least a simple weapon so he can hunt for himself. He finishes his desperate plea by thanking the beautiful goddess Parla, then slumps over, crying quietly to himself. Suddenly, a voice says okay, and the man looks up in shock, questioning, "Go goddess?" The unseen entity replies that it will excuse his rudeness and provide a blessing, shown by the man sitting alone on a patch of grass, looking up into a bright light. Overjoyed, the man jumps up, thanking the great and beautiful goddess Parla, as a bright light shines below him. He joyfully declares he won't forget her kindness, raising his hands to the sky, but then pauses, looking confused, saying, "Eh?" A golden light shines down, presenting him with a shovel, a small wrapped bag, and a rolled-up scroll. The man looks down at the items that have appeared, the shovel, the food bag, and the scroll, while a voice explains that the goddess provided things he was most familiar with from his past. He sits there, hands raised in surprise, and a voice continues, saying it will give everything for free. The menu for the food is listed as cucumber kimchi, boneless braised mackerel, dumb soup, and kimchi. The bag provides satiety but also a lot of discomfort, and the shovel is just a shovel with no other special use, followed by the voice telling him not to call again. The man, now seemingly wearing a blindfold and smiling strangely, feels refreshed, letting out a maniacal laugh. Later, the man is seen sitting down with his new items, a roll of paper, the shovel, and the bag of food, before the scene fades to a chapter title card for Chapter 02. This is the title card for the second chapter of the story. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny day with clouds, then focuses on two figures on horseback approaching a thick forest entrance. A closer look shows the two riders, one with purple hair and a mask, and another with blonde hair and a green outfit, pausing before the woods. The purple-haired woman pulls down her mask slightly, revealing her determined eyes, before they both dismount and stand ready at the edge of the trees. A character with horns, seemingly the village elder or leader, tells Captain Dora that monsters have been running wild from the woods, damaging the village, which is unusual for someone who has lived for 50 years. Captain Dora replies, "What?" The horned figure states that a terrifying creature might have appeared in the forest and instructs Captain Dora to investigate immediately. Captain Dora, with a slight smirk, agrees to go, and her partner, Nalari, gives her a thumbs-up approval. They enter the forest, noting the strange quietness, and Nalari comments that the forest is so empty that even a civilian could walk through it without trouble, which Dora finds unbelievable. Dora notices something strange on the ground, an object sticking out of a mound, asking, "What's that?" They approach a strange mound of earth with a stick in it, surrounded by text carved into the ground, which Dora says is a strange script she has never seen before, wondering what it means. Dora touches the writing, saying it might be something troublesome, and feels strange emotions like hate and resentment from the text itself. Nalari notices Dora's reaction and asks if it looks dangerous and if she wants to turn back, referencing the responsibility Captain Dora will bear. A horned figure appears briefly, implying she has great faith in Dora. Dora thinks Nalari has too much faith in her, while someone else mentions that Captain Dora is known for sloppy work despite her skill, which Dora quickly dismisses, saying they are equals. A small, dark, shadowy creature appears, startling Dora, who glares at Nalari, accusing her of trying to run away from the mission, while Nalari tells her it's better to run than be disobedient, implying something bad will happen when they return. Dora gives Nalari an extremely ominous glare and holds up her fingers, signaling them to get ready. Dora signals with her fingers, counting down, and tells Nalari to run as fast as she can when she hits 3. Dora shows the count, 1, 2, 3. As she finishes the count, a powerful downward strike hits the ground near her hand, causing debris to fly. Dora, reacting instantly to the ominous glare, rushes forward, thinking she needs to put distance between herself and Nalari quickly. A sharp impact sound follows, and Dora looks back in utter shock, showing tears welling up in her eyes. A jarring transition shows Dora and Nalari struggling and holding on to each other, with Dora asking, "What are you doing?" Nalari insists they run before whatever is there attacks them, but Dora counters, revealing she knew Nalari was planning to escape the mission. Nalari screams back, acknowledging that Dora knew about her plan and declaring that this time she won't escape. Nalari turns away, and something rushes past them into the bushes. Nalari looks confused, asking, "Huh? What?" just as they hear a faint voice from the woods saying, "Was that?" The eyes of the creature are shown in close-up, revealing it is a human, which causes both Dora and Nalari to scream in terror. Both women scream "RUN!" and are seen fleeing rapidly down a path away from the figure who has emerged from the trees. The shovel the first man received is seen violently thrust into the ground where they were standing, and Dora asks if the creature followed them. They look back to see the yellow light from the dropped shovel disappearing, and Dora looks surprised, asking, "It's gone?" Suddenly, something long and dart-like shoots down from the sky through the canopy, heading toward the ground. A massive explosion of yellow light erupts where the object landed, making Dora and Nalari recoil, as they wonder what on earth just happened. Smoke clears to reveal a figure standing in the center, and a thought bubble shows the man from before saying, "I was so bored that I rode the shovel for 5 hours a day." The man, smiling sinisterly, states that he knew this scenario would happen beforehand, adding that fantasy is just fantasy. The narrative explains that the protagonist gets stronger by overcoming near-death situations in the forest, and Dora asks Nalari how heroes from this world escape the forest, while a deep red background implies danger. The menacing figure appears, holding what looks like a modified slingshot made from the shovel handle, and demands that they show him around. Below, the man is shown using the shovel to dig or move intensely. Dora and Nalari are seen hiding behind some bushes, observing the scene. Dora pulls out a knife, taking a ready stance, and tells Nalari to pick up her weapon as Nalari looks utterly shocked. The focus shifts to the strange, terrifying figure with wild hair and razor teeth, described as the strange text, an evil that hates everything, confirming that something dangerous has appeared, just as the chief warned. Dora stares intensely at the creature, realizing she cannot let that creature leave the woods. Someone saw her writings in an unknown language and felt an unprecedented monster approaching. The feeling was so strong that it gave him a dreadful presence that covered everything. Even with this powerful presence around, the person holding the sword felt that the main threat was still irrelevant. However, looking closely, the eyes showed that something truly evil was near. A shadowy, monstrous figure with glowing eyes emerged, radiating pure evil. The person with the sword knew that this was the moment to act and deal with the situation right there. The hero, Park Byung-jang, appeared holding a shovel, causing the two women to be shocked. He then admitted that he made a mistake because he got too excited thinking he was finally leaving the woods. Park Byung-jang then apologized sincerely, asking the attackers to stop fighting him. He had already laid down his weapon and tried to talk things out, but he sensed one of them was about to rush him. He wondered how to explain the situation without getting attacked again. He then warned the person not to attack him if they didn't want to die. The two women were thrown back by a powerful impact, crashing into a deadly pit filled with sharp spikes. This section marks the start of Chapter 3 of the story. The question arose, how could a mere human like Park Byung-jang survive such a dangerous situation? The reason was that Park Byung-jang was burning with anger, but at the same time he kept a cool head. The sergeant, Park Byung-jang, started assessing his surroundings to figure out what to do next. He found animal tracks, a good place to set a trap, and a very useful tool, which was a shovel. Park Byung-jang's mind worked fast, using all his brain capacity to find the best solution. He concluded that to get food, stay safe, and escape the forest, a perfect plan was needed: traps. He had been making traps every single day, so the whole area was covered in them. One of the attackers tried to escape, but before she knew it, she was caught in another trap. The women realized they had fallen into a trap, showing clear fear on their faces. They were in great danger because of this crazy bastard who set up all these traps. Park Byung-jang then asked a rhetorical question about the Korean War, implying that the women let their guard down. Suddenly, he appeared, hitting one of them as the scene transitions to sunset. Purple-haired woman felt dizzy and realized she had been unconscious for a while, wondering about the rope tying her. She asked if there was any chance of escape, checking on her companion, Nalari. Nalari woke up, and the other woman yelled at her to wake up, causing both to panic, thinking they were doomed because of their carelessness. They felt they couldn't go back and were finished. Park Byung-jang then appeared, asking if they slept well, making them confused by his casual tone. He saw their reaction and realized they didn't understand each other's intentions. One of the women cried out that she thought they were going to die, but the other tried to calm her down, saying he would have killed them already if he wanted to. The crying one wondered why he kept them alive and what he planned to do. Park Byung-jang seemed to have a plan as he looked at them with a strange smile. He then announced attention to get their focus. He explained that he was stuck there and needed their cooperation to get out. He made an okay sign, making the women wonder if body language would even work in this world. The narrator noted that they understood his request perfectly, but one woman immediately refused to cooperate, calling him a devil and asking if he would spare her if she cooperated. The other shouted for her to just die. Despite the threats, one of the women kept saying she didn't want to die. Park Byung-jang noticed that one of them had been uncooperative for a while. He sighed, saying he seriously wasn't planning on using this next method. He then pulled out a small packet, warning them it wasn't an ordinary liquid. He explained that he made this liquid to tease his juniors back in the day. He then forced some of the liquid into the purple-haired woman's mouth, telling her to eat it with the sauce. He called it new spicy chicken hot sauce, saying he hadn't used it because he couldn't find any chicken. He added that the sauce had been in his pocket for days and asked if she would cooperate now. The story begins with a wide view of a settlement nestled near some tall, stone-like structures and green woods under a bright sky. Inside a dimly lit room filled with many candles, a figure with long light-colored hair and horned bows deeply before an image or painting. One of the candles flickers intensely as a sudden sound is made. The bowing figure looks up with wide eyes as a bright, divine-like image appears above them. The figure, still sitting, seems to be reacting strongly to whatever just happened, with sounds of distress echoing around. Looking up again, the figure whispers the name Parlasam in thought. The scene returns to the interior with the image and the burning candles. A sudden thought of confusion strikes someone, wondering what is happening as the chapter title card appears. A character groans, clearly feeling unwell as the chapter number 04 is displayed. The scene shifts to a dark forest at night where two figures are tending to a third person lying on the ground. A man holding a shovel stands over the purple-haired person, yelling that he will not submit to this devil. The blonde-haired person below reacts with intense anger, calling the man a demon. The blonde character is visibly shaken, looking down while thinking about how dare the man do this, who then smirks and asks if she wants to taste something. The man with the shovel laughs nervously and says he didn't mean to stare, holding up a small packet of something. He apologizes for not understanding but says he heard the name Parla. The man apologizes again while the blonde character cries, seemingly in despair. She then suggests they need to guide him out of the woods. The blonde character, with an almost manic expression and multiple arms moving, confirms their plan is just to guide the person out of the woods. The man holding the shovel pauses, seemingly thinking about a deal, wondering if they have an agreement. The blonde character reacts with shock and excitement to the man's question. The man with the shovel flashes a sinister grin, while the purple-haired woman looks terrified and the blonde woman looks surprised as the man demands to be taken to their town. The man insists on being taken to their town, while the camera focuses on his intense, determined eyes. The blonde woman is overcome with fear, repeatedly thinking the situation is scary. The scene changes to show the exterior of a large tent-like dwelling, and then inside where the horned figure is sitting near a fire between two others, realizing that it is already dawn. The horned figure wonders if sending only those two, despite their odd personalities, was a mistake, but the older man reassures her that they are the best students. The horned figure agrees but says she is just worried because it is getting late, while the two men sitting nearby look anxious. Suddenly, there is a sound of heavy footsteps approaching fast, and a woman in yellow bursts in shouting "Master!" Two elders look on as the woman in yellow excitedly announces that Captain Dora and Nolari are back, showing relief and worry. The horned figure calmly acknowledges their return, saying they're back. The woman in yellow, still overwhelmed, calls out to Chief Hayana, who tells everyone to stop. Outside, two figures on horseback arrive, one holding the other captive, as some local guards look on in shock. The man on the horse whispers for help, while the narration states that they have arrived at the town, as the captive purple-haired woman is seen close up. The group from the town decides they have a good chance of handling the situation right there, as a group of armed men stand ready. A close-up shows the man with the shovel looking down, while the next shot shows the armed group standing before a large statue in the town square. The focus shifts to the statue and then to the determined eyes of the man who brought the captive. The man in yellow, who was rescued, shouts in confusion, asking why they should go back when he'd rather see Parla-sama. The two captives, now sitting tied up, mention the name Parla in distress. The man with the shovel explains that even though he didn't understand their words, he definitely heard Parla, and wonders why he didn't realize sooner that this might be Parla's world. He has a vision of a cloaked figure with a dark face, realizing with conviction, it could be Parla's world. The man shouts "That's right!" and suddenly launches into action using his shovel. The blonde captive reacts with confusion as the man with the shovel throws her aside. The man tosses the packet he was holding, making a loud sound as he prepares for something. He leaps onto the blonde woman's back, securing a hold on her while the other captive reacts with alarm. The man strikes a triumphant pose, glowing brightly, having seemingly taken control. The blonde woman looks utterly confused as the man stands over her. The man stomps his foot hard on the ground, making a powerful sound. The town guards look on in disbelief as the man stands behind the two captives, who are now seemingly under his control. The guards comment on how the man is holding one of them hostage, calling him a cowardly bastard, and wondering what he is planning. The man says once and then just once, before suddenly striking the blonde captive, sending her flying. The blonde woman is tossed through the air and an order rings out, "All right, attack now," followed by "Kill him." The townsfolk rush forward to attack, with several members being violently thrown backward near a large structure that is emitting fire. The focus briefly shows the man's associate tending to a strange flaming device, before the narration states at this moment. The man with the shovel thinks to himself, "This humiliation I'll hold it in." He clasps his hands together as if praying, while the townsfolk closest to him react in surprise. The purple-haired captive is seen trying to untie herself from the horse she was near. The man kneels before the large statue in front of the assembled crowd, appearing to be praying seriously. The crowd watches him, surprised that he is praying, while the rescued woman looks stunned, held by a man. The man stands up, brushing off his clothes, preparing to speak. With a sudden, radiant glow, he declares, "I am the warrior that Parla sent down." Both the purple-haired and blonde women are shown with shocked, glowing expressions. The leader of the town's guards expresses confusion and disbelief, wondering if they should still attack, while his subordinates are completely baffled, stating an oracle hasn't come for years and calling the man Parla's messenger. The horned figure steps forward, banging something down with authority, and commands everyone to step back. She addresses the crowd, announcing that she has received an oracle today. The horned figure continues, quoting the oracle, "Soon there will be a great darkness, and I will send a warrior to lead you," while the man with the shovel stands brightly illuminated behind her. The guards react with confusion, asking if this man is the warrior, since there hasn't been an oracle in years, identifying him as Parla's messenger. The horned figure looks intensely at the crowd and begins to speak again with caution. She warns them that the man could be either the warrior or the great darkness that Parla spoke of, as the chapter ends on a close-up of the man's serious face. Someone has been found, and the main character is looking down with a determined look. A bright, warm light starts to glow, suggesting something important is happening or about to happen. The light grows brighter, reaching towards a small planet floating in space, while someone hopes that the person found can succeed. A terrifying, one-eyed figure named Parla is shown, and there is a strong call to action to stop her. The chapter number 05 is displayed after some intense visual effects, marking the start of the next part of the story. Back in a camp setting, an angry woman with purple hair shouts at the chief, demanding why he did not deal with someone right away. The chief, who has deer like antlers, calmly tells the angry woman to calm down, reminding her that the other person could be a huge darkness, just as she herself said before. The chief points to a drawing of a figure and stresses that they cannot ignore the oracle's words, leading to the question of whether they will treat the newcomer like a warrior. The chief states that the plan is not to treat him like a warrior, but rather to subject him to a warrior test. The name Karim is mentioned, and the purple-haired woman looks shocked upon hearing it, as Karim, a powerful warrior, is back. Karim is revealed to be one of the few ranked members of the Rang clan, known for being the strongest in physical strength. It is confirmed that Karim's fighting power is recognized across the continent, and he is considered an A ranker, setting the stage for a battle against him. The chief confirms that the newcomer will be tested for his warrior credentials, and the scene shifts to a large tent guarded by 2 soldiers. Meanwhile, the protagonist is sitting alone, wondering if his act of being suspicious is not working and if he now has to run away. He decides that with his shovel, he can probably escape by cutting through the roof. Suddenly, a divine light surrounds the protagonist as he hears a voice saying, "Nice to meet you," and the voice claims to be the goddess who came to save him. As the protagonist is momentarily stunned, a bullet appears in the light, and he reacts with a sharp sound as something is violently knocked away from him. In a chaotic sequence, an unseen figure kicks, and the shovel is knocked away, causing the bullet to hit the table with a tang. The protagonist exclaims that the near miss almost gave him PTSD and angrily asks what the other person is doing, calling out the name Parla. The person he is talking to is confused about his reaction and rejects being called Parla, to which the protagonist simply asks, "So what?" while recalling she claimed to be a goddess. The protagonist declares he will not take help from bastards like her, and the other person simply replies, "Okay," as he pulls out the bullet again. Protagonist allows her to speak, and she introduces herself as Marley, explaining that the protagonist wants revenge on Parla for sending him there. Marley states she is willing to help for personal reasons, but the protagonist looks at the bullet in his hand and asks why she is a bullet. Marley explains she shapeshifted into a weapon the protagonist knows, the K2 rifle, but was betrayed by Parla and lost all her strength, which is why she is now a bullet. The protagonist dismisses this as useless, but Marley insists it is not, mentioning her ability, while the other person cuts her off, saying, "Whatever your name is." A fierce-looking older man with a staff calls for the protagonist to come out now, and the protagonist, holding his shovel, cheerfully replies, "Understood." The older man is shocked, asking, "What?" because he heard the protagonist couldn't communicate, demanding if he can speak their language. The protagonist nervously sweats while holding his shovel, then sheepishly explains that Parla gave him the ability to communicate as a reward for overcoming the first ordeal. Realizing the situation, the older man tells him to come out when ready, as they will be waiting. The protagonist recovers from his shock with a nervous laugh. The protagonist agrees that it seems helpful, and asks Marley if she has any other abilities, promising more once trust is built, calling her a good businesswoman. The protagonist then asks if they should join forces, showing a wide, scheming grin. The protagonist accepts the alliance, and Marley agrees, saying, "Great," as the bullet floats in the air. The protagonist channels some energy into the bullet, laughing maniacally, and the bullet now hangs around his neck on a chain. He tells Marley they will talk about the rest of her story when they get back. The scene transitions dramatically, with dark lines suggesting a new serious confrontation is beginning. The goddess figure from before, Parla looks utterly shocked with wide eyes, seemingly reacting to something major. Parla seems to be questioning something, as another figure with wings appears and asks if she called him. The winged figure addresses Parla, saying, "Parla-sama," but then reports that he cannot see Park Byung-jang, and Parla harshly tells him to get down there now. The winged figure complies, folding his hands over his chest, and asks Parla to check the situation. The setting shifts to a large arena, or fighting ground, where the protagonist stands alone, facing a massive crowd cheering loudly. The crowd is roaring, and the protagonist looks slightly overwhelmed as the voice explains they could not decide who is fulfilling the prophecy. The antlered chief declares that they want to make sure he is a warrior and has decided to hold a warrior test, adding that they heard he has communication skills. The protagonist asks if she understands, then feigns ignorance, saying he does not know what a warrior test is, to which the chief replies it is a duel. The chief loudly declares the duel, while two spectators in the crowd are shown watching the spectacle like a movie, and the protagonist mutters, "This is crazy." The protagonist asks the sergeant for ideas, but the sergeant says he just arrived today and needs time to think, while the chief insists they start the test right away, angering the protagonist. Chief raises her crystal staff dramatically to announce the beginning of the contest. She announces that the opponent is Karim, a warrior from the Rang clan, and Karim appears as a huge, dark, muscular figure. Karim sneers, showing sharp teeth, and the protagonist looks on with a serious expression as Karim chuckles. Karim, looking extremely strong, points toward the protagonist and says, "That's the goddess warrior." Karim looks down at the protagonist, who stands ready with his shovel in the arena. As Karim moves one sharp clawed hand forward, Karim leans in close to the protagonist and taunts him, asking, "You're not a warrior, right?" While the protagonist stares back with a determined look. The scene opens with a clear confrontation, showing one man standing ready, holding his shovel like a weapon, while another imposing figure looms large over him. The imposing figure, looking quite menacing with sharp teeth and horns, directly questions the man, suggesting he isn't a real warrior. The crowd watching the fight reacts with murmurs and shock, particularly two women, one with purple hair looking serious and another with blonde hair looking terrified, as a regal-looking woman with horns observes the scene. The focus shifts to the main character, still standing his ground, though the crowd seems distant and perhaps fading into a blue-tinged background. The main character lets out a small laugh and wonders why everyone is looking at him in a certain way. He then calls out the other person for doubting him, calling him shameless and asking if he has even seen himself. The villainous figure scoffs at the idea of self-reflection, pointing out that the main character's eyes reveal a hidden darkness. A close-up on the protagonist's eyes shows a deep, perhaps dark emotion, which the villain claims is full of hate, suggesting he can see through any innocent appearance. The villain confidently states that while the protagonist might trick others, he cannot be fooled. The protagonist seems to accept this as another trial sent by Parla and laughs at the villain's elaborate guess. The villain continues his deduction, guessing based on the protagonist's clothes that he came from a different world. He continues to elaborate on his guess, describing the protagonist's assumed punishment by Parla and banishment into the woods. Villain concludes his theory. The protagonist sharpened his blade on the way to seek revenge on Parla, then asks for confirmation. The protagonist is clearly taken aback by how accurate the guess was, calling it scary, while the villain smirks. The protagonist, trying to regain composure, asks if the villain has any proof for these wild claims. The villain then asks the protagonist what one can feel by looking at his powerful body. The villain boasts that his body has the most intelligence in the town and claims expertise in psychology. He aggressively recommends the protagonist face reality and look at himself, while the protagonist is shown readying his weapon, realizing he must prove himself. Protagonist decides he has no choice but to prove his strength, as dragging out the fight would be a disrespect to the power bestowed upon him by Parla. This section serves as a chapter break, marking the end of Chapter 6. The narration shifts to a saying from the army, illustrating that soldiers are ranked by how many enemies they can defeat alone. The saying explains that a basic soldier beats 1 enemy, a private beats 2, a corporal beats 3, and a sergeant beats 4 enemies single-handedly. Considering that the protagonist was a former sergeant discharged just 3 days ago, the thought arises about how strong he truly is. The narrator questions if he can annihilate an entire enemy platoon alone, then immediately answers with a definitive no. The following images show a massive, blinding explosion, and energy release, suggesting the protagonist's power is much greater than just beating a platoon. The fight continues intensely, with the protagonist clashing against the monstrous-looking opponent. The crowd is in shock, with one of the purple-haired observers exclaiming in disbelief that even Karan couldn't avoid that attack. The protagonist lands a powerful blow, and the opponent, looking visibly hit, dismisses it as disappointing, asking if that is all the power the protagonist has. The villain mocks the protagonist for trying to pass off as a warrior with such little power and intelligence. The villain suggests that people might think he is bullying the protagonist, then challenges him, asking if his break time is over. The protagonist barely reacts to a further attack, showing resilience even when hit. He tells the opponent to get a hold of himself, as there is still plenty of time left in the fight. The villain then yells that he will take the protagonist's eyes out. The protagonist, despite being beaten, states that his body possesses the most intelligence in town and that he has already figured out the pattern of the attack. The perspective shifts to the protagonist's internal thoughts, realizing his consciousness is fading and he needs to wake up. Someone calls out Sergeant, jolting him awake as he looks terrified and bloody. He is immediately hit by a powerful upward strike from the monstrous opponent. The protagonist is sent flying high into the air after a massive impact. He crashes down hard, clearly in pain, groaning out in agony. The villain looms over him again, repeating the earlier question about why he tried to fool everyone into thinking he was a warrior with so little power and intelligence. The villain taunts that people might think he is bullying the protagonist, then stops the fight, asking if the break time is over. Two men stare intensely at each other as the villain attacks again, this time with a swift downward swing. The protagonist manages to block the attack but gets severely punished for it. The villain mocks the attack, saying it only tickles him, and counters with a massive punch. The protagonist is brutally knocked away, reeling from the powerful hit. As the fight continues, the protagonist manages to land a solid hit back onto the monstrous figure. Blood splatters from the villain's face as the protagonist lands a blow, but the villain seems unfazed. The protagonist tries to swing his weapon again, but the villain grabs it easily with his monstrous hand. The villain then retaliates, delivering a devastating blow to the protagonist's head. The protagonist is sent tumbling through the air in a vertical panel showing the chaotic fall. The protagonist hits the ground hard, enveloped in dark, possibly magical energy, and is clearly defeated, groaning in pain. Lying on the ground, battered and bloody, the protagonist realizes his mistake. He acknowledges that they haven't even truly started the fight yet as his consciousness begins to fade. His eyes roll back, and his internal voice urges him to wake up. The onlookers are shouting Sergeant, as the protagonist wakes up abruptly, looking shocked and covered in blood. The opponent attacks him immediately with a massive kick. The protagonist tries to dodge the attack, which causes a huge shockwave as the opponent's foot lands. The protagonist, though injured, manages to stay standing, shouting, "I told you." He delivers a brutal blow to the villain's head, causing significant damage. The villain acknowledges that his body has the most intelligence in town and that he had already figured out the protagonist's attack pattern. The protagonist is shown defeated and lying on the ground again, his vision going dark, muttering about his consciousness fading. The protagonist, recovering slightly, grimly states that the real fight hasn't even begun. He struggles to hold on to his awareness, telling himself he has to wake up. The woman calls out Sergeant, again snapping him back to attention, though he is severely injured. The opponent unleashes another powerful strike against the protagonist. The protagonist is thrown backward by the overwhelming force of the opponent's attack, creating a massive destructive area around them. The protagonist stumbles away, bleeding but standing, while the woman asks if he is okay. The protagonist replies sarcastically that it is a very smart question, pointing out how bad he looks. The woman apologizes, admitting she watched the earlier fight. She confesses that she thought he could never win, so she prepared a countermeasure in her own way, referencing something the sergeant had said before. She reminds him of his promise to reveal his other abilities once their trust was established. The protagonist confirms he remembers that promise and mentions that ability. The final panel shows a mysterious woman, blindfolded and surrounded by fire, holding a large bullet, preparing to show the protagonist what that ability is. The scene focuses on a powerful, glowing aura, and a figure is about to unleash something with a caption, that ability. Now, something big is about to happen as the figure declares, "I'll show you." Below the display of power, a battleground is shown where two figures face each other, suggesting the real fight is just beginning. The intense energy from the first part seems to be connected to this confrontation. One of the figures wonders what is happening, noticing the defeated enemy who was thought to be near unconsciousness. This suggests that the enemy, despite appearing weak, might have a hidden reserve of strength. The defeated individual is now surrounded by a terrifying, dark red aura, showing a surge of unexpected power. This sudden change in atmosphere shocks the onlookers. The figure emitting the dark aura grins maniacally, with sharp teeth, as the observer notes that they did not expect such a hideous aura from this person. The intensity of the situation is growing rapidly. The narration shifts to recall that this man, Karim, had a life full of battles and always sensed danger keenly. His history shows he is a seasoned fighter who avoids unnecessary risks. Because of Karim's careful nature, he led many battles to victory in the past. However, the current situation is presented as something entirely new for him. A dramatic contrast is shown as the main character stands tall, looking down into a massive crater where the demon-like figure is rising, emphasizing this situation is unprecedented. The word but hangs heavy in the air before this moment. This battle, out of all of Karim's fights, seems different as the focus returns to the overwhelming feeling he has never experienced before. He feels a dreadful aura, something beyond his past encounters. The scene expands to show a dark night with a full moon, where several menacing figures, including winged creatures and the demonic one, observe the situation from a rooftop, suggesting a larger conflict is brewing. The narration confirms that the veteran soldier Karim had never felt such a dreadful aura in any of his previous fights until this very moment. This underlines the extreme danger they are in. The chapter title page appears, marking the start of Chapter 7. Back to the present, the man who just fought is addressing another, admitting his skills and expressing thankfulness that they now trust each other. This suggests a recent alliance has been forged under pressure. The other person quickly dismisses the talk of gratitude, bluntly stating that he is only helping because if the first one dies, he will die too, showing their connection is purely transactional for now. The first man simply replies, yeah. The second man, despite the heavy situation, seems relieved and asks if the first man's incredible performance is due to a great skill, acknowledging the anxiety he felt earlier. The man with the bandaged face looks briefly stunned, then the focus returns to the distance where the soldier with the shovel stands alone, ready for action. The two men face each other across the distance, and the injured man questions the other's statement about just one shot with a wary expression. A sharp sound effect rings out, showing the intensity of the moment. The man who is seemingly defeated lets out a primal scream, looking up in rage or agony, while below, a group of figures watches with varying expressions of shock and apprehension. A close-up shot emphasizes the determined, bloodied grin of the man wearing the yellow jacket, his eyes hidden by shadow, showing fierce resolve. The story flashes back to a military training ground where a soldier is seen taking aim with a rifle, emphasizing the background of military precision that relates to the skills being discussed. The sound effect suggests the click of a mechanism or a shot being prepared. The scene returns to the showdown, where the man in the yellow jacket repeats the phrase, just one shot before looking down, contemplating his next move. He looks up and asks, "Is that so?" Followed by a fierce reaction, suggesting he is dismissing the difficulty of the situation or the opponent's expectations. The man lets out another huge, intense shout, showing his fighting spirit. The background observers show clear shock and concern about what is unfolding in the fight. The focus then snaps back to the determined face of the man in the yellow jacket. Another flashback sequence shows the military setting and sound of a rifle firing, linking back to the precision shooting mentioned earlier. More detailed shots of the soldier aiming the weapon and preparing for the shot reinforce the focus on precise firing. The sound effect of a single shot rings out over the quiet military training ground, hinting at the perfect accuracy discussed. The flashback shows soldiers in formation in the morning light, saluting or standing ready, contrasting with the current desperate fight. A superior officer calls out to Staff Sergeant Park, who runs over, clearly excited and bringing something, likely cigarettes, to the other soldier. The superior officer grabs the other soldier's hand, and they share a brief moment, with the officer expressing his surprise and respect for the soldier's abilities. The officer questions the soldier's actions, making the soldier uneasy with a close, intimidating look. The officer puts his arm around the soldier, praising his consistent, extreme precision, which made even the company captain jealous. The soldier looks overwhelmed. The two soldiers share a moment of laughter, reinforcing their bond over the impressive shooting skills. The narration mentions that company captain Na was getting jealous of this bond and skill, before the scene returns to the present with the yellow-jacketed man on the ground, feeling frustrated. The man cries out in frustration, "Damn, and then says, "You scared me," perhaps referring to the shock of the near defeat or the power he just witnessed. A bullet casing floats in the darkness, drawing attention. He questions the opponent, asking what he is supposed to do now, especially since the opponent claims it was just one shot and confirms this with a simple yes. The man in the jacket scoffs, saying that even if it's only one shot, it is enough, hinting at his confidence in his own power or the opponent's limited capacity. The focus shifts to the demonic figure's intensely focused eyes, followed by a distant shot of the man in the yellow jacket standing firm, implying the final exchange is about to happen. Suddenly, the man in the yellow jacket bursts into intense, fiery orange flames, completely changing the dynamic of the fight. He looks ready to fight with this new power, holding his shovel like a weapon. A close-up shows the man in flames, his face resolute, holding the fire in his hand, indicating this power is directly controlled by him. The demonic figure is baffled, wondering if this is magic, but quickly realizes he cannot feel any magic flow, which confuses him more. Then, a massive explosion of sound indicates the next phase of the battle. The demonic figure cries out in shock, asking if this is the real start of the battle, clearly thrown off balance by the fiery power. The man in the jacket, enveloped in fire, holds his weapon and clearly states, "No, this is the end." The demon asks if this is a long-range attack, but the protagonist interrupts, stating confidently that predicting is his specialty, suggesting he knows exactly what will happen next. A close-up on the hand gripping the weapon shows focus and readiness for the final action. The demon smiles, ready for the confrontation, while the man aims again, asking if his action will be faster than the speed of sound. A massive bang erupts as the soldier fires his weapon at the shocked opponent. The demonic figure is shown falling backward, struck by the shot, with dark energy dissipating around him. Blood splatters violently as the powerful enemy is clearly hit in the chest. The aftermath shows the enemy falling hard onto the ground, having taken a fatal hit, while the soldier stands ready, still holding his weapon. The single bullet is seen hitting the target, and the onlookers below react with horror as the powerful demon collapses. The soldier holding the rifle lets out a small burst of flame from the barrel, then looks down at his own hand, which is now producing controlled flames, linking his power to the earlier fire display. The fire seems connected to his necklace, which now glows with a fiery phoenix-like pendant, suggesting the source of his ability is related to this object. The observing villains look terrified. The female villains are visibly shaken by the outcome, especially the one with horns, as the defeated enemy curls up on the ground in defeat. The soldier stands tall, raising a fist in victory, declaring that the ordeal was tough. He reflects that without Parla's protection, the ending would have been much worse, showing gratitude for some unseen aid or power source, symbolized by a statue. He stands firm, proclaiming, "I am a warrior," and asks if they believe him now, but the crowd whispers amongst themselves, confused by Karim's status and the warrior's strange eyes. The horned woman admits she was certain they would win, but the power displayed by the other side was something else, causing her distress in a sudden surge of pain or realization. The defeated demon clutches his head in agony, while the yellow-jacketed man questions if he missed his vital shot, showing confusion over the survival of his enemy. The demon confirms that he aimed precisely at the vital point and is sure he hit the target. The demon is furious, screaming at the defeated warrior, demanding to know the warrior's name and heritage, showing his pride is wounded. The yellow-jacketed man looks shocked at the demon's continuing life, as the demon vows to prove his point with all his honor. The man reacts with disbelief, shouting, "What? This is wrong!" A wide shot shows the arena where the man stands in the impact crater, and the crowd is clearly agitated. The horned woman proclaims that according to Parla's prophecy, they must be the darkness sent to this world, confirming a larger destiny at play. The woman raises her hand toward the crowd, trying to control or address them, as the pressure of the prophecy weighs heavily. An exchange happens where the chief questions the woman, who firmly states that unexpected results can come out, even if the odds are 1 in a million, suggesting they need to prepare for anything. She then urgently calls for everyone to arm themselves as the crowd readies their makeshift weapons. Back to the yellow-jacketed man, he suddenly feels something is wrong, looking around with a worried expression, his amulet faintly visible. He curses the shameless bastard, likely the demon who survived, and yells to take away that devil's breath. The demonic figure screams again, preparing for a final desperate attack or transformation. A chaotic battle erupts in the sky with various figures engaging in intense aerial combat, wielding swords and other weapons. Main character, still holding his shovel, plants his feet firmly, ready to face the incoming melee fighters, bracing for the continuation of the fight. The scene starts with a beautiful but ominous sky where small, glowing embers drift around a large square platform surrounded by a crowd. On the platform, a figure stands surrounded by intense orange flames, and then a winged figure, Marley, appears above them. The winged figure, Marley, is identified, and a question is raised about why they couldn't keep an eye on Sergeant Park. As Marley flies over the landscape, the speaker wonders if it was because of the dirty goddess who still had some power left. Marley, with a sly look, admits that the goddess probably still had some power remaining. Marley decides that the first thing to do is report back to Parla-sama. The background shifts to a purple, stormy sky with floating light fragments, showing a transition in location or time. The purple light continues as the scene darkens further, hinting at a more serious or otherworldly setting. A view from below shows a small figure with broken-looking wings descending against the purple backdrop. Now looking at the figure from behind, they are revealed to be a winged person with blonde hair, under a dark, starry sky as some sound effect rings out. The winged person faces a woman with long light blue hair who greets them, calling them Brown, and asks if they are back. Brown confirms his return to Parla-sama, who then asks what happened to Park Byung-jang. Parla-sama, sitting on a throne with horns, seems unconcerned and asks if they should listen to whatever report follows. Parla-sama confirms that Marley is back, looking intense. Brown reports that apparently, Marley still has some power left, just enough to barely block their observation. An image shows a dark figure with fiery red hair, and Brown explains that Marley was helping Park Byung-jang escape, which Parla-sama reacts to with a slight scoff. Parla-sama smiles, saying she was wondering where that person went, suggesting she knew about Marley's actions. Parla-sama dismisses the current version of Marley, comparing the weakened state to a feeble bug. A dramatic shift occurs as Parla-sama stands up, with a vast starry space behind her and the throne on what looks like a floating rock. Parla-sama poses majestically, and Brown states that this is all that Marley is, before adding that they must focus on the mission. Brown, in a pose of respect, states that they need to just focus on the mission for Parla-sama. Parla-sama stands overlooking a landscape with two dark, swirling voids in the sky, while Brown and another winged figure watch from below. Parla-sama declares that it is time, and the other two agree that they should get started on their plan. Parla-sama's expression becomes very sinister as she declares that Marley's world. The dark background emphasizes her statement that will be mine, with purple energy sparking below. Parla-sama brings her hands together in a gesture, saying it is all for her children. The declaration "it's all for you, my children" is made, and the scene shifts to a group of monstrous figures rushing forward. A group of rugged-looking fighters charges forward, and below them, a close-up of other monstrous-looking individuals shows their fierce determination. One man with a shovel stands ready against the advancing horde, while another man looks extremely stressed and sweaty. The man with the shovel engages in combat, fending off attackers with arrows flying around him. The focus shifts back to Parla-sama, whose hand glows, summoning a dark, chaotic energy that cracks the space. As Parla-sama's power radiates, the ground where the fighters are standing cracks violently, impacting the battle below. The fighters react to the sudden shift in reality with shouts of panic and pain as the ground breaks apart. One of the fighters screams in terror, asking what the hell is happening this time, as shards of broken reality float around. A dark opening appears, and a massive, rough hand bursts through the shattered surface, reaching out. A close-up shows the face of one of the fighters looking shocked and sweating as the dark force emerges. Some people on the ground look terrified, and a woman with horns and light hair looks utterly distressed. A large, gray, grotesque monster with a huge mouth full of teeth breaks through the barrier, hands scrabbling for purchase. The man with the shovel looks on in disbelief as another massive sound effect echoes, indicating immense force. Close-up focuses on the monster's terrifying mouth, filled with rows of sharp, spiky teeth. The chapter title for Reincarnation of the Veteran Soldier appears, marking the end of this section. Chapter 8 begins with a visual of cracked ground against a dark, ominous sky. The giant, tentacled creature with a massive, circular mouth descends, looking even more monstrous. The creature seems to smash down onto the battlefield, and below it, a group of similar-looking, shadowy figures emerges from a dark rift. One of the new monsters screams with a wide, toothy maw while another group of fighters look stunned and ready to fight. The fighters engage the red-skinned monsters as one monster roars directly at the camera with sharp teeth. The purple-haired fighter moves incredibly fast, delivering a decisive blow that splatters blood on a red monster. The purple-haired fighter lands after her attack, completely shocked by the sudden emergence of these new, grotesque creatures. She wonders if the first man, the one with the shovel, summoned all these monsters appearing from the ground. The man with the shovel stands tall on a rise, and a close-up on his bruised and weary face shows his confusion as he wonders about all of these monsters. The man realizes the situation is beyond him, thinking, "What is this?" and then decides he needs to run away. Man, fuck it. Overwhelmed, the man thinks, "I want to run away," and then sees a huge, whale-like creature soaring above him, surrounded by debris and smaller, strange objects littering the ground. He questions his thought to run away, remembering that until now, everyone was focused on him. Recalls the past, where he was always the center of attention, even during fights, but now things are different. He thinks that right now, he can't wait any longer and decides to use the cloak skill he learned in the military. He resolves to use the skill immediately, stating he must remember his memories from that time. The scene abruptly cuts back to the military barracks, showing the setting where Sergeant Park's absence is noticed. A superior officer asks about Park Byam-jang, and the soldiers in the room report that the platoon leader is missing. The soldiers search the empty room, and one peeks into a locker, confirming that Sergeant Park is not in the dormitory. They continue searching under the beds and in other spots, calling out for Sergeant Park. One soldier yells that Park Byam-jang must come out right now. The focus shifts entirely to Sergeant Park, who is found peacefully outside in a forest clearing, sharing food with a cat while two tree-like figures stand guard. Back in the barracks scene, the superior officer yells that Sergeant Park's unique skill, cloak, is activated. The purple-haired fighter, still amidst the battle, reacts with disbelief upon learning about the cloak skill. The purple-haired fighter stands her ground against the approaching monsters, her expression determined despite the situation. She looks at the fallen shovel and then realizes with shock that there were so many people involved in the fight before, but now. A chaotic scene is shown from above, filled with various monsters attacking and wielding makeshift weapons. More figures, including the purple-haired girl, are fighting hard against the horde of gray and red creatures. She thinks that nobody saw Park run away, and the scene shows a dark opening in the ground. The scene moves to a lush green forest with sound suggesting movement in the grass where Park might be hiding. Park Byam-jang is seen hiding upside down, almost completely covered by tall grass, with only his feet initially visible, then his eyes in a close-up. Finally, a clear view shows Sergeant Park hanging upside down in the tall grass, seemingly having executed a perfect escape. Park reaches up and then quickly moves into a crouching position as he seems to recover from his action. He laughs, declaring it a perfect escape and vowing, "I won't pee this way from now on." Park then addresses someone he calls Cigarette Goddess and asks if they should start their adventure. He waits for a response, showing a floating bullet, but gets no reply, so he asks why they aren't talking. He shouts, asking if they are sleeping or if all their powers are gone, looking widely at the empty space. Frustrated by the lack of response, he concludes that something must have happened to Marley. He looks down at his pendant, which glows fiercely, and then his eyes widen in shock as he whispers Marley. Park unleashes a burst of fire from his hands in a fighting stance, seemingly reacting to something alarming. The fire engulfs a shape that looks like a person, suggesting Park is fighting something or channeling power through this vision. The focus is on a massive, intense blaze taking up the lower part of the frame. Park stands with his back to the viewer, facing the enormous manifestation of fire, which has taken on a humanoid shape with huge hands. A man in great distress seems to be holding his head, surrounded by intense, fiery energy. This massive fiery aura takes the shape of a monstrous figure as a man looks up at it. A strong impact sound echoes as the fiery power seems to lash out. The man with the fire power looks angry and strained, sweating under the pressure of the energy he controls. Someone mentions the name Park and then Park Byam-jang as the flames surge upwards. The man is caught in the flames, desperately trying to fight back against whatever is happening. The scene changes and a woman with long red hair looks on, simply stating the name Marley. Marley looks intensely at someone and asks if they know how much she has suffered until now. The man replies that it has barely been a day since they met, and then suggests they should just move on. As they talk, the man notices something about her appearance, perhaps a change in her power. Marley confirms that her strength is back, but then hints that there is a problem. She says yes to regaining her power, but then adds a hesitant "unfortunately" looking down. The man is clearly confused or upset by what she is implying, and she states that the power is making strange sounds. A close-up shows Marley's hair now glowing and flowing with fire as she is overwhelmed. Marley screams at the man to stop, grabbing his throat in an aggressive reaction. The man cries out in pain as he is being choked, and the chapter title sequence follows. This marks the beginning of Chapter 9, showing a peaceful landscape of rolling hills and forests. The man recovers from the previous struggle, letting out a sigh and rubbing his neck. He complains to Marley, saying she choked him just because he said something inappropriate, thinking it was too harsh. Marley then explains her true reason for coming to him, to stop Parla's plan to merge their worlds. Noting it happened faster than expected, a giant, imposing figure looms over the man, showing the merged world's immediate threat. Marley continues, explaining that as soon as she arrived, the worlds merge, and it happened too quickly for her to stop. The man panics, telling her to hold on, and asks about the monsters that suddenly showed up. He points to his head, questioning Marley if she was the one who summoned those terrifying creatures. Below them, massive, grotesque creatures with multiple mouths emerge, as the man asks if Parla sent those things. The man addresses Marley as Sir Park and apologizes if the creatures made her uncomfortable, but notes she is being rude now. He quickly corrects himself, stating that those things are actually not monsters. Marley clarifies with emotion, placing a hand on her chest, declaring that they are her children. The man is stunned by this revelation, letting out a small sound of realization. He looks down at the shadowy forms below, realizing the monsters are Marley's offspring. The man asks Marley if Parla took away her world too, just like they took away her power. Marley sadly confirms that she only wanted to protect her children. She explains that the only thing she could do in that situation was to reabsorb her dead children. The man then asks if the evil she was told to defeat were actually the inhabitants of her world. He reacts with surprise as Marley seems unfazed by his intense questioning. The focus shifts to a different person, tied up and sweating heavily, seemingly in distress. This tied-up person is hidden behind a tree, hands covering their face, looking very nervous. This person is clearly awake, despite trying to pretend to be asleep, sitting against a large tree trunk. The person starts to talk, maybe asking a question, while clearly scared and sweating. He swallows hard and tries to hide, making sure he is completely concealed behind a tree. He hears a faint tapping sound coming from the distance. Another person peeks around the tree, startling the first one, who screams in surprise. The person who is pretending to be asleep gets violently yanked out from behind the tree by the first person. The scene shows the two men now standing over the defeated, unconscious third person who was hiding. The man who was examining the scene, likely Park, looks confused at the situation that unfolded before him. The view pans out to the forest area where the action took place. Park starts slapping the newly awakened man, repeatedly telling him to wake up and calling him a waste of plastic for pretending to be asleep. The awakened man cries, saying he will die if he wakes up, as Park insists he needed to wake up. Park tells the others that the captured man is not waking up, and they decide to just leave him because they can't waste time. The captured man suddenly celebrates his freedom from being left behind. Park quickly grabs the captured man again, threatening to kill him for his behavior. The captured man screams that he is awake now, clearly terrified of Park. Park asks the man why he didn't snore if he was going to pretend to be asleep, while the man begs not to be killed. Park laughs, saying his survival depends on his answer, and then demands to know how much the man overheard. The man looks terrified, and Marley also seems serious about the outcome of the interrogation. Park pats the man's head while he nervously claims he didn't hear anything. Park dismisses that lie, saying he heard everything, and tells him to answer the next question. Park stares intently, asking how the man managed to find his cover-up, given how well hidden he was. He then asks why the man chased him alone and points out that the shovel was left behind because it was inconvenient for escape, questioning why the captured man brought it. Park leans menacingly, asking the captured man if his group intended to kill him. The captured man, now calm, states that first he needs to clear up a misunderstanding. Park looks on, confused as the captured man begins to summon a strange green energy. The green energy flows around the man, forming a protective or transformative aura. The green energy fully envelops the kneeling man, and when it fades slightly, his appearance has changed, with multicolored hair and eyes. The transformed man explains to Park that he only used the transformation technique to sneak into the village. He continues, telling Park that he is not actually a native of that village. The transformed man reveals his true identity, concluding by stating, "I'm a spy." The spy introduces himself as St. John. He declares that he is against the Parlan faith and is also a really talented spy. He remembers being ordered to infiltrate the Rang village alone and how scared he was, but still agreed to the mission. John made a sound of resignation, ready to face whatever came next. Using his special transformation skill, he quickly turns into a white wolf and confidently strides into the forest. With his transformation skill, St. John swiftly and secretly began his mission. The wolf stopped suddenly, sensing something or someone nearby. He saw a man struggling, pulling a heavy log in a restricted area, and thought it was a close call. But then he focused, wondering what the man was actually doing. The man was straining with all his might to move the log, looking fierce and determined. Jun thought the man looked scary, but the man was shouting about pulling through together as they dragged the log across. The wolf let out a sound of confusion, then just sighed, realizing this situation was perhaps not what he expected. Remembering his main goal, the wolf focused and dashed through the forest, knowing the mission was his top priority. The wolf reached the Rang village, which looked like a small settlement, and observed people greeting each other happily, seemingly unaware of any trouble. Later, the spy, now back in human form and disguised, confirmed he finished his mission successfully and had gathered quite a lot of useful information. He decided he needed to return now, holding his findings. As he was getting ready to leave, he noticed a commotion outside his room, with people shouting loudly. Peeking through the curtain, he saw a chaotic scene where people seemed to be attacking someone, and the spy looked shocked by what was unfolding. The focus shifts to the person being attacked, who is being held by another man, and the realization dawns on the spy that this is the man he met earlier. Sight of the captured man triggered a realization about the moment they met, and it felt like everything was starting to go wrong. Suddenly, in a different location, a group of figures, including a majestic-looking woman, seemed to receive a divine message, an oracle, which surprised the green-haired spy who thought oracles hadn't happened for years. The spy gasped as he saw an image of someone being violently destroyed, asking if that person was Karim, and then realizing this might be the darkness foretold by the oracle. The vision intensified, showing a terrifying, monstrous form emerging, causing the spy to be utterly terrified by what he was seeing. Everything that happened that day, including the shocking events, was overwhelming, and the spy wondered if he should just leave the situation behind. He was about to leave, but then hesitated, thinking about the powerful man from before. He thought that the man, perhaps the one who transformed into a wolf, could be a great help to their organization. The spy realized that possessing such competence felt like a sin, and he felt immense pressure, while a silhouette of a powerful figure against a red moon loomed over a crowd. He exclaimed in frustration, thinking it was a sin to be so competent, and then someone grabbed an axe, preparing for action. The green-haired spy, feeling the pressure, decided to pursue the man, yelling, "Let's go after him." As many shadowy figures rushed forward. Back to the confrontation, one of the powerful figures grabbed Sint Jun by the hair, causing him intense pain. The captor asked if Sint Jun was a spy, saying that was more suspicious, while the focus is on Sint Jun's pain expression at the chapter number for this part is shown. The chapter title is displayed, and then a character shouts for Sergeant. As a fight seems to be breaking out, someone yells that he's going to die, but then Sint Jun, who is tied up, is surprised to hear "Come on Tilda, who cares?" from someone, and he thought he was about to die. The man with the beard tells the red-haired woman that since Sint Jun claimed he could transform, this might just be a fake face, and his hatred for the Parlan religion could be fake too. Jun, looking shocked, suggests they don't have time to find out the truth, so isn't it better to just kill him? The woman agrees with the idea of killing Sint Jun, but then the narrative notes that the man asks Marley to wait a minute, while Sint Jun, still tied up, warns them that if they kill him, they will regret it. The man looks intently at Sint Jun, then states that at this rate, they will soon meet their death. Jun, looking determined despite his situation, declares that they will soon meet their death. The man scoffs, asking if Sint Jun thinks he can intimidate him, pointing out that the man looks menacingly as he explains that when things get sorted out soon, the situation will be reported to the Empire. Jun, sweating nervously, warns them that soon their faces will be on wanted posters all over the country. He adds that they will also be labeled as the Devil of the Oracle, showing a wanted poster image of the bearded man. Jun reminds the man that Karim is still alive and is a relentless soldier who will hunt them down relentlessly, asking how long they think they can survive without information. The bearded man smiles, asking if their survival chances change just because they keep Sint Jun alive. Jun smiles back, confirming that yes, it definitely changes things because he is a genius spy. Jun boasts about his skills in disguise and infiltration, asking if there is anyone else who needs him more than them in their current difficult situation. The bearded man reacts with intense ferocity, grabbing Sint Jun and slamming him down, suggesting that the man yells and slams Sint Jun to the ground, while the man leans in close, saying he likes Sint Jun's provocation, and then simply says the name Marley. Marley, the woman with red hair, looks stunned when the man calls her name. The man asks Marley if she hasn't been robbed of her world, challenging her not to sit there like a pushover. Marley looks intensely serious, telling the man he doesn't know how she felt when she absorbed her deceased children, calling herself a goddess who lost everything. The man simply replies, "Okay," acknowledging her pain, and then the narrative describes them as two seemingly obsolete people. The scene shows the intense stares between the three main characters, labeling them as a goddess who lost everything, a suspicious self-proclaimed spy, and the man who is the focus of the conflict. Despite the bleak situation, the bearded man says, "However, I have a plan." The bearded man declares he has a plan to the curious Marley and the nervous Sint. "Cha!" Marley looks at him questioningly, and Sint. Jun seems anxious as the man starts explaining their next move. The man dramatically announces that they are going on an adventure, much to the surprise of Marley and Sint. "Cha!" He continues, stating this adventure is for himself, for the sake of her children, referring to Marley, and for the organization. With their purpose set, the three shout, "We're leaving!" Under a bright sky. They are now moving forward together, Sint. Jun looking happy as he holds the rope, and the other two following his lead into the unknown fate that awaits them. As the trio runs forward across the land, the narrator wonders what exactly is waiting for them. The scene fades to black with a single negative response, "No." A brief exchange continues in the dark, with one character saying it's your fault, met with "no," and then it is, followed again by "no." Someone is confronted, being called out as Park Byam-jang's sergeant, and the man looks distressed, his face obscured by shadow but his hands moving near his eyes. The sergeant, looking panicked and overwhelmed, shouts that it is not his fault. It was 1 month before Park Byam-jang passed away when Lieutenant Kim, the platoon commander, called the main character to the administrative division. The main character wondered why he was called, thinking it was related to the succeeding platoon leader who was about to leave the army. The first platoon leader, who was getting discharged soon, wanted to give a lot of senior advice to the junior soldier. This made the main character think about his position and reputation among the younger soldiers. The senior soldier greeted the junior and asked him to sit down for a talk. He immediately asked about how the junior felt about the army and his standing with the other soldiers. The junior admitted that he was unsure about his position and feelings regarding the army. The senior laughed and said he understood, then offered a piece of great advice. The senior told the junior to sit down, and the junior reluctantly agreed. The scene briefly showed a wide view of the office before focusing back on the two men. The senior asked the junior how he felt about the army and, more importantly, how his reputation was with the younger soldiers. The junior looked very unsure about answering. The junior confessed that he really did not know how he was perceived, making the senior laugh, saying he guessed so, and then referred to him as our junior. The senior then declared he would give a piece of advice, his expression becoming serious and slightly strained. The next moment showed the junior looking a bit nervous as the senior looked intensely at him. The senior started telling his story from when he first became the first platoon commander, mentioning he heard a lot from the sergeant, who kept telling him, "Platoon leader, this is how you do it." The senior asked the junior if he understood what those words meant, but the junior just looked confused. The senior implied that he knew better because he had been in the army for a long time. The junior was clearly overwhelmed, sweating, and realizing the situation was scary. The senior then calmed down and said that such mistakes from a platoon leader happen all the time. The senior warned that corporals are like hyenas looking for mistakes to take advantage of. He then pulled out a picture, asking the junior whose family photo it was, noting everyone in it had a lot of hair. The senior revealed it was his family photo, then sadly explained that his hair was lost in the wilderness, meaning he lost it due to stress. He recalled how the deputy platoon commander and corporals openly ignored him after a battle loss, leading to heavy stress a few years later. The senior looked at the junior, making sure he understood the seriousness of the situation, then warned him about the corporals. In the bottom, the senior was seen looking at his wallet or a small item. The senior called the junior by name and told him to look at the picture again. He then pointed to the picture and asked whose it was, continuing to give tough advice. The junior looked at the photo, commenting that it looked like a family photo where everyone had a lot of hair. The senior confirmed they were his family, looking very grim. The main character was shocked, seeing the senior's current state contrasted with the photo. As the senior stated, "My hair was lost in the wilderness." The senior remembered being ignored after losing a battle, which caused great stress later on. The main character was shocked, seeing the senior's current state contrasted with the photo. As the senior stated, "My hair was lost in the wilderness." The senior remembered being ignored after losing a battle, which caused great stress later on. The senior continued to stress the point of leadership, asking if the junior understood. The junior meekly agreed, showing tears of understanding or empathy as the senior recalled being under heavy stress in the past. The junior quickly confirmed he understood what the senior was saying, while the senior looked on with a hint of relief. This realization seemed to hit the junior hard. The main character suddenly thought of the corporals with intense anger and determination, vowing he would not let himself be caught by them. He stood up powerfully, surrounded by a fiery aura. The senior stated that this was great advice, even if the junior wasn't completely bald yet. He then explained that the military is like a high-class society and a jungle at the same time. The senior advised the junior not to bother catching the kids who are going home soon. He emphasized that if one handles the upper class well, the lower class will follow, specifically mentioning how much Park Byung-jang worked hard, and they both agreed to take action. The senior asked if the junior understood everything, and the junior, Lieutenant Kim Shin-im, seemed momentarily confused before confirming he did. The senior looked fiery and intense as he finished his advice. The senior firmly asked if the junior knew what he meant, pointing directly at him with a knowing smirk. The junior paused, his expression showing he had finally grasped the dark meaning behind the advice. The junior exclaimed with firm understanding, "Yes," then stood up sharply, the sound effects showing his firm resolution. He saluted briskly before walking out with purpose. The junior saluted with his beret and then declared, "Wait for me, Sergeant." He then walked away, bathed in a bright, divine light, indicating a new resolve. He continued his silent vow, "I'll show you exactly what FM is." The scene then shifted to an outdoor landscape where a sudden impact was felt on the ground. The impact showed the junior performing a powerful push-up on a wooden beam, with a military boot striking the beam right beside his hand. This was an immediate display of his new focus. The junior was knocked down by the force, causing the surrounding soldiers to cry out in alarm for Park Byung-jang, while the figure responsible was identified as the dog-bearded bastard platoon commander. A large sound effect filled the space, and the focus shifted to the platoon commander looking intensely at the junior while holding up 3 fingers. The shock of the situation was evident on his face. The platoon commander seemed stunned, silently questioning Park Byung-jang as the memory transition began, marked by the chapter title card appearing. The chapter title card appeared, signaling the end of the flashback and the start of the next sequence. The scene dramatically shifted to a cosmic background where a massive, swirling pink energy formation appeared above a mysterious, long-haired figure looking at it. This seemed like a significant supernatural event. The figure, with horns and light blue hair, softly smiled, declaring that the merging of the 2 worlds was a success. Another winged figure congratulated her, calling her Parla-nim. Parla asked if the other angel wanted to rest now, but she insisted there was still time to wrap things up before resting. Her gaze was sharp and focused. A second angel, named White, responded with a simple yes to an unseen question, and Parla instructed White to show him around. The view then focused on the figure of the main character from his recent past. Parla stood tall, looking down with an unreadable expression as the winged angel led the main character away in his familiar athletic wear. The winged angel told Mr. Warrior to follow them this way, leading him through a soft, glowing environment. The main character was shown close up, sweating profusely and looking utterly confused by being transported to this strange, glowing place. The main character was floating, seemingly being carried by the long hair of the blue-haired goddess, while he questioned if this was all just a dream. He looked at the goddess Parla, who stated that this was the new world and firmly asserted, "It's not a dream." Her expression was knowing and calm. Parla introduced herself as the goddess who would guide Kim Shin-im and mentioned that Shin-im had finished his previous life. Shin-im, still processing, remembered having nightmares lately, but this dream felt unique, especially wondering if he was outside earlier. He wondered if everything since waking up had been a dream, but Parla noted that Kim Shin-im had a tendency to become completely absorbed when thinking alone. Shin-im laughed nervously, thinking it must be a dream. He then wished that what happened to Park Byung-jang was only a dream, which caused Parla's expression to darken menacingly, showing intense displeasure. Shin-im quickly regretted that thought. Shin-im tried to backtrack, saying that couldn't be true and asking what he should do, suggesting he could pretend it never happened. The idea seemed to shock him back to reality. He reacted with extreme alarm, shouting, realizing with dread that this situation was very real. The main character, sweating, looked at Parla and said no, realizing with horror, this is only a dream. Parla apologized, but explained that she saved his memory when he died. She then clasped her hands together, glowing with power, initiating a powerful memory transfer. A rapid montage of the main character's life and the events leading to his death played out in a visual, glitchy sequence, showing him in uniform, during training, and finally falling. The memory sequence ended with the main character screaming in anguish, realizing the full horror of what had happened in his previous life. The main character fell to his knees before Parla, who now looked down with a dark, angry expression, one eye glowing red. He realized something terrible. He couldn't speak, clutching his head, wondering with despair, "I am dead." Parla confirmed that all of this it's not a dream and addressed him respectfully as Kim Shin-in. She clarified that he was not fully dead and there was a reason he was brought there, stating it was by God's mercy. This offered a sliver of hope. Parla confirmed that God had given him this second chance while holding the main character close. The main character, processing this, asked then just. He breathed out sharply, understanding the condition attached to this chance to be able to make it happen. Parla confirmed with that's right. Parla explained that she would send him back to the time before the incident happened, but only on one condition. The focus tightened on Parla's intense eyes. Parla sternly asked if he expected such a huge reward without any trials or hardships first. The main character stared blankly, realizing the catch. He accepted immediately, stating, "I got it." Then he asked for confirmation, "If I overcome the ordeal, you'll send me back in time, right?" He finally understood the meaning of the situation. Parla confirmed with a simple yes, and the main character, though looking determined, still showed signs of apprehension, saying, even if it's a hardship, he appreciated the opportunity. He eagerly asked Parla to tell him about the ordeal he must face. Parla's expression shifted to one of satisfaction, saying it sounds good. Parla spread her arms wide with an eager, almost manic smile, ready to reveal the challenge. Parla declared the challenge that I'm going to give you is being a warrior. The main character looked up, his body starting to glow faintly with energy. Parla explained that the evil beings had evaded their world, and the final requirement was to eliminate all the evils as a new, grim-looking warrior stood beside a red-haired woman against a backdrop of fire and monstrous creatures. The story shows a vast, pale blue sky with a few wispy clouds above a large, curved white wall rising from a grassy area. This imposing structure marks the entrance to the Empire. The story moves to the entrance of the Empire, where one character expresses nervousness about what is to come. Another reassures them, claiming that as a genius spy, everything will be fine. The boy answered his mother that school taught him to stay ahead of the competition and not fall behind. The mother reacted with concern, saying that such a lesson sounded dangerous. Child's mother was shocked when he proudly shared his lesson about staying ahead of the competition. The boy looked up with a questioning expression as something broke near his feet. Meanwhile, the woman holding his hand looked down with a worried face at the broken pieces on the ground. The boy, holding his mother's hand, looked up with wide eyes after hearing her warning about danger. The woman looked very surprised and maybe a little scared. She seemed to be standing on a stone-tiled area as the background blurred away into light. A gigantic monster with rows of sharp teeth suddenly appeared, crushing the surrounding buildings with its massive size. A woman looked up in shock as glass shards flew everywhere from the destruction above her. The boy with the ripped clothes looked down at the ground, something clearly bothering him. He was so focused on the dropped item that he bumped into the very tall woman walking past. The giant figure stepped down, causing buildings to shake and crumble around it. A loud sound echoed as the massive weight impacted the ground below. The area around the entrance to the Empire looked like a destroyed and smoky ruin, with rubble scattered everywhere. People were seen huddled on the ground in fear, while strange figures stood over them. A woman stood amidst the destruction, looking up as huge, fleshy tentacles descended from above. The terrifying monster seemed to tower over the ruined town, causing panic and destruction everywhere. The man flies high above the city with the winged person, a beautiful rainbow appearing beneath them in the bright blue sky. It looked like a happy moment soaring through the clouds. A figure descends toward the large, circular city situated by the water, which appears cracked in one section. The character seems to be approaching the entrance to the Empire, bringing a sense of looming action. The young man felt a surge of strength entering his body, making him feel ready for whatever came next. He realized that with this new power, he would be able to overcome any fear he might have. The man acknowledged the goddess, feeling the immense power within him. She told him the strength was just a small gift from her. The mysterious figure told him that he needed strength to become a worthy warrior. This new world should not be feared because a true warrior can overcome any kind of fear. The angelic figure told the person not to be scared of the new world. Then, a hand reached out toward the figure, who was named White, as the voice stated that White would be their guide. A person in a black tracksuit greeted someone with wings, looking forward to their cooperation. Meanwhile, it was strongly stated that a warrior can conquer any kind of fear. A woman with light blue hair told someone to just immerse themselves in the power. The boy felt something strange happening to his body as he tumbled through the sky. He realized then that this person, no matter what, needed to be taken to the captain. The man felt a surge of power flowing through his body. This powerful energy indicated that he was ready for anything. There was a huge, bright golden flash with many star shapes exploding outward. Then, the light seemed to shoot down into the ground, causing a big disturbance in the area below. A giant, tentacled creature loomed over the city buildings under a dark sky. Below, a figure with flowing blonde hair and a peaceful expression seemed to be emerging in a burst of golden light. The glowing sword, surrounded by swirling golden light, descended to emphasize the power being described. This display of strength reinforced the idea that a warrior needs power to face any challenge. The person held the sword up, surrounded by intense, bright light and a fiery energy. This moment seemed to mark a significant point of power or realization for the character. A figure wearing armor and a white cloak descended amidst bright, fiery energy. This strong presence suggested a warrior ready for battle or a grand entrance. A blinding light shot upwards, looking like a massive pillar of energy or fire against a dark background. This powerful visual suggested a significant event or transformation was taking place. A huge, bright light burst out over the city buildings, making everything glow. The light seemed to push out with great force, scattering stars and energy around the area. Outside the city, giant, glowing, tentacle-like structures rose over the buildings, while glowing rocks fell from the sky. The characters saw the strange sight and the ground shook with intense heat and light. A huge explosion of light and debris rocks the city below. Hot, burning chunks rained down upon the buildings and people. A group of people stood looking out at the mysterious, dark structures that seemed to be dissolving into the strange twilight air. Below, a soft golden light shimmered against the dark structures, hinting at something different ahead. A glowing, golden figure holding a sword stands above, while below, a determined man wearing armor tells everyone not to worry. He reassures them all with a powerful stance before they continue their journey toward the Empire. The boy had learned that to become a true warrior, one needed strength and should not fear the new world, as a warrior could overcome any fear. His body felt different now, filled with power as he awoke from a deep state. The powerful figure in armor declared that he would protect someone. This warrior understood that gaining strength was key to overcoming any fear in this new world. The chapter break shows a title card and the number 12, signaling the end of one part and the start of the next. Meanwhile, the group arrives at the entrance to the Empire, making one person feel nervous about what awaits them there. The young boy learned in school that one must stay ahead of the competition and not fall behind, which worried his parent. A voice tells the boy he needs strength to become a worthy warrior and not fear the new world, as a warrior can overcome any fear. The group arrived at the entrance of the Empire, and one of them felt a bit scared about what was coming next. Another person confidently assured them that everything would be fine because they were a genius spy. A character declared that he was a genius spy to reassure someone who seemed nervous. Another character then stated that things were probably already bad enough. A man in armor holding some papers simply said next. Someone's black boot is shown stepping down onto what looks like grassy ground. There is a sudden, fast-moving black shape cutting across the lower part of the view. The soldier, who was already dead, felt that he was already beyond fear. He realized that he needed to take this person to the captain rather than use him because he could not escape from him. Park Byam-jang, disguised as a priest, happily thanks someone for their hard work. This man is heading toward the Empire while disguised. A priest, who is actually Park Byam-jang in disguise, bids farewell with a blessing. St. John has transformed into a nun, which someone notes is a male nun. The boy finally understood that this person could not be easily shaken off, so he decided it was better to hand him over to the captain. With that thought, the boy agreed to go with the disguised spy on the way to the Empire. The man looked closely at the wanted poster he was holding, which showed a picture of someone with a very wide, crazy grin. He seemed to be considering the threat written below the picture while standing under a bright blue sky. The priest and the nun, who was actually St. John in disguise, seemed happy to see the man at the entrance of the Empire. The man who had been waiting just made a slight sound of acknowledgement. The boy said he learned to stay ahead of the competition and not fall behind, which worried his mother because that sounded dangerous. She was then told that a warrior needs strength and should not fear the new world, as they can overcome any fear with power. Meanwhile, at the entrance to the empire, someone expressed nervousness about what was ahead. Another person confidently stated that their business for the kingdom would be reported to the empire. The man was shocked when someone mentioned that their business for the kingdom would be reported to the empire. He loudly asked if they were serious about going to the empire in person. The man holding the shovel was told that he needed to learn some discipline with whatever he was doing. Meanwhile, the woman stood watching him, looking quite small in the background against the distant scenery. Someone made a sound of pain while kneeling down. Then, a man with a determined look told the person that he wanted to say one thing. He spoke about a saying from the world he used to live in, which meant it is hard to notice what is close by. If someone knows they will be chased, it is better to go right to the enemy's place to have a better chance of fighting back. The character stated an old saying that one has a better chance to fight back by going straight to the enemy's den if they already know they will be chased. When asked if he was scared, the character replied that he was already dead, which made Jun realize something about him. The man suggested that going straight to the enemy's base offers a better chance to fight back if one already knows they will be pursued. When asked if he was scared, the other person replied that he wouldn't be scared because he was already dead. Someone asked if he was scared, but a dark, unsettling smile filled the background as he replied that he saw no reason to be afraid. He asked if he was scared, but the man replied with a terrifying, shadowed smile that he was already dead. Jun then realized that this person could not be let go easily. Jun looked at the person tied up and realized something important about this guy. He decided it would be better to take this person to the captain instead of using them himself because he knew he could not get away from him. The man decided that taking the defeated person to the captain was the better choice because he knew he could not escape from him. He then announced that he would be going along with the woman. The person decided it was best to bring the other individual to the captain instead of using him directly. This decision was made because the narrator realized they simply could not get away from this person. The young man sighs, admitting he cannot resist and will cooperate with the person talking to him. He states that they are now on their way to the empire. The group arrives at the entrance to the empire, and someone admits they are feeling nervous about what is to come. A companion, disguised as a priest named Ark Byam Jang, reassures the worried person. A guard looked at the two newcomers with some suspicion as they presented their papers. The man disguised as a priest and the woman disguised as a nun stood awkwardly before him. The guard explained that the newcomer was a priest and loudly asked what brought him to this place. This guard seemed very happy to see the disguised Jun. The disguised priest laughed heartily, claiming he was there because of the monster incident and planned to pray at the central city cathedral. He admitted this whole story was actually a script that Jun had written for him. The man agreed enthusiastically, saying that just hearing the word filled him with grace. The guard quickly granted them passage, and the disguised Ark Byonjang and Saint Jun walked toward the entrance of the empire. Jun felt nervous about entering the empire, but Ark reassured her that his skills as a genius spy would handle everything. The man looked confused with question marks appearing above his head. He then asked if that was all there was to it. Jun asked in surprise what the other person meant by that statement. The other person then explained that he was scared by all the things Jun had done. The journey to the empire continued, and one character remarked that getting past the initial checks was simply too easy. Another person then asked why the disguise included shaving off the mustache, noting that everything facial hair-wise seemed to be gone. The character smirked, saying that to be honest, things had gone quite well for them. They attacked a wagon to make up a fake identity, and someone wondered how it happened to be the priest's carriage. The man explained that the kingdom they were entering was an extreme religious one. The woman seemed cheerfully ready for whatever came next. He mentioned adding his genius makeup skills, which included organizing eyebrows, hair, and a beard, along with a dull skin tone up. The other person thought Byeon Jun's disguise was really good. The person thought that the other individual was definitely helpful. Meanwhile, a small character with light blue hair was happily greeting someone who dropped something. The man admitted that while the disguise was good, something about the lively square made him angry. He expected a different atmosphere and decided he needed to do some research right away. The area looked much more exciting than expected, with people gathered around like it was some kind of celebration. One person realized the lively atmosphere was strange because the big imperial festival was still far away. The man looked confused at the lively crowd. He questioned if the atmosphere should really be like this. The boy realized that this man, no matter what, needed to be taken to the captain instead of being used. He decided to go with him on the way to the empire. The crowd seemed lively, making the observer wonder why the square felt like a festival even though the imperial festival was still far away. This strange, festive atmosphere definitely struck the person as weird, making them decide to investigate. It seemed there were some problems within the combined world. The biggest empire was somehow in a very happy, festive mood. The character felt the need to conduct some research about the unusually lively atmosphere in the square. People were bumping into the disguised spy and the nun, who apologized after noticing the disturbance. A large figure wearing dark robes bumped into the young man, causing him to cry out in pain. The person in black was clutching a decorated book as they brushed past. In a crowded square, a woman in a blue dress had let a small boy fall to the stone ground. A man in dark clothing, holding a book, looked down with a serious expression at the fallen child. A man shouts out to someone he thinks is hurt. He asks if the person is alright after the collision. The disguised spy apologized for bumping into the little boy, but the woman quickly apologized back to the man. People seemed to be crowding the square, causing a little chaos. The child happily called out to his father figure while another person stood by. From a distance, a character looked on with wide eyes at the scene unfolding. When the person bumps into the girl, she tells him he is so sweet. He confidently replies that of course he is. The man thought to himself that revenge is a dish best served cold. He then looked down at the person he had bumped into, his expression unreadable. A large figure looked down at what appeared to be a tiny, discarded outfit lying on the stone pavement. The ground beneath the figure's hand showed signs of cracking under pressure. Someone called out that the kid had dropped their doll. A doll wearing a white and purple outfit lay on the stone floor. A man dressed like a priest shouted out, calling for a kid while squatting down and reaching for something on the ground. He was clearly surprised, and below him, a voice called out, "Hey kid!" A hand reached down to grab something that had fallen. It seemed someone had bumped into another person, causing them to drop what they were carrying. The disguised Arc Byung Jang looked surprised as someone shouted at him. Another person, who seemed to be Saint Jun disguised as a nun, was also present for this journey. A person looked intensely shocked as someone else held something out towards them. The intensity of the moment made the shocked person's face darken with strong emotion. The chapter starts with someone tightly clutching a small, doll-like figure in his hand, looking quite serious. He holds the doll out, and then the focus shifts to his intense, shocked expression. He seems to realize something important, murmuring a name, Kim Shin-im. The title card for Chapter 13 appears, and the setting quickly moves to a dark, wooded area near some hidden buildings. The path leads to a sturdy, somewhat overgrown door set into a stone structure, suggesting a secret location. This place is revealed to be St. Jun's hideout, showing a sparse interior with some crates and scattered boots like a simple living space. Inside the hideout, the main group is present, the silver-haired person, the woman in black, and another man sitting hunched over, still holding the small doll. The explanation continues, saying that monsters suddenly started appearing, and at that time, the warrior and the angel saved their lives. The silver-haired person reacts with a small sound, feeling that this information is truly shocking. The silver-haired one notes that a warrior showed up here, and the man sitting down says he was expecting a hero to come. The seated man says it is not surprising to him, asking the silver-haired person if they had not talked during church, and the silver-haired one asks what he expected then. The man sitting down confirms it and reveals that he was originally a warrior candidate. Both the silver-haired person and the woman in black react with huge shock and surprise at this revelation. The silver-haired person seems to be thinking about the personality wrecker, and the seated man suggests that now that he is in his current state, there must be a new guy. The seated man wonders about a new warrior, while the woman in black seems uncertain about this development. The seated man crushes the doll in frustration, stating that he has a bad feeling about this whole situation. The seated man asks the silver-haired person what they plan to do next. The woman in black points out that the seated man was supposed to tell them the plan when they arrived at the hideout. A flashback shows the seated man lying defeated on rocks, looking up at a powerful figure standing over him in an arena-like setting. The man in the flashback thinks that if it wasn't for someone named Marley, he surely would have died at the hands of Karin by then. Returning to the present, the seated man determines that he will have to be strong for his own sake. He honestly admits that he is lacking in both power and information right now. The silver-haired person addresses him as Jun and suggests they should make a deal. The seated man proposes that he will lead them to a place where he can secretly grow his strength. The silver-haired person asks if the seated man had some purpose for coming with him in the first place. The silver-haired person worries about the danger, exclaiming that they might die if they follow such a plan. The seated man dismisses the fear, stating it doesn't matter, which makes the woman in black exclaim in disbelief. The seated man declares he has a place in mind and tells them they will leave immediately after they get ready. The scene dramatically shifts to a grand, imposing building with a tall, reddish spire under a bright sky. A small figure stands before a massive, divine-looking statue inside the grand building. The main warrior, now in a military uniform, is addressed by someone who recognizes him, Mr. Warrior. The warrior asks how this person managed to find him in this place. The person apologizing, but the warrior stops them, saying they don't need to apologize at all. The person then tells the warrior that someone has come to see him. This visitor claims to know the identities of the demons, and the person asks the warrior to call her in. The visitor walks in, revealing a person in a hooded outfit, and then the warrior and the silver-haired person stand ready to meet her. The visitor pulls down her hood, revealing a woman with striking purple hair, while the warrior and the silver-haired person observe her. A closer look shows the purple-haired woman, who is clearly the leader of the Reincarnates Rangers. The group stands together as the visitor looks on. The visitor observes the warrior, thinking he is a true warrior in whom divine energy flows. The silver-haired person confirms that the visitor is the leader of the Reincarnates Rangers and the first person to encounter the demon. The warrior acknowledges her hard work, and the purple-haired woman, now looking intense, says she has a favor to ask. She explains that the demon is with his comrades and makes a grim request to the warrior. She asks the warrior to destroy the town where the demons reside, showing a picture of a roaring demon. She explains that during that disaster, her junior went into a coma. Clutching something metallic, the purple-haired woman desperately pleads with the warrior. She finishes her plea, asking the warrior to please let her join his group. The setting changes again to a dark, gritty town under a moody evening sky. The scene shifts to what looks like a betting arena, where an excited announcer hypes up the crowd. The announcer passionately urges everyone to bet all of their money. The crowd cheers wildly, and the announcer declares he cannot let them down after hearing their excitement. The announcer then moves to introduce today's players, starting with one contender. The first fighter is introduced as a man with a deadly weapon, whose powerful entry makes a loud sound. This fighter, with a huge build, declares that he will help the underprivileged with the prize money. Some in the audience question if he is running out of money to bet, while others seem concerned about his intentions. The announcer asks who will be the opponent for the first fighter and asks everyone to look forward to it. The challenger makes his first appearance, and everyone wonders if he will survive this brutal speculation arena. The challenger is revealed to be Champ Tiger, and he looks ready to fight with face paint on. Champ Tiger expresses his excitement, saying this is his favorite place and his heart is pounding. While the fighters stand ready, a woman in purple and a young person observing the scene are shown in the audience area. The two main fighters face each other, ready for a battle of wills. The announcer remarks on the intense nerve fight already starting and expresses his excitement for what is to come. The announcer decides not to waste any more time and asks if they should get started. The game is declared to start now, as the action begins in the arena ring. The giant opponent leans in close to the challenger, suggesting they finish the fight quickly. The giant insists on finishing quickly, and Champ Tiger looks up with a wide-eyed, determined expression. The image shows a blur of motion, indicating a swift attack or movement. The man who was observing the fight earlier looks slightly stunned by the action. The audience members watch intently, including the woman in purple and the young person with a clipboard. A cloud of dust or smoke fills the air after a powerful exchange. The giant opponent is shown lying defeated on the ground, while Champ Tiger stands over him victorious. Champ Tiger, looking very energized despite the fight, simply says next. The victorious fighter stands over his defeated opponent, looking down with a fierce expression. The fallen man lies still on the ground, his body heavy and defeated. The winner, with paint smeared on his face, demands to know who is next. Another strong-looking man scoffs at the request for a next fight, calling the victor a cheeky little kid. As people clear the defeated body, the challenger issues a stern warning that from now on, the word next should not be spoken. His cold eyes and sharp words tell everyone that he means business, daring anyone to challenge him now. With incredible speed, the challenger launches a powerful kick. The main character, with war paint on his face, meets the attack head-on. A massive collision of fist and leg sends shockwaves through the area. Challenger's face contorts in agony after taking the heavy impact. In the crowd, several people watch the fight, their expressions ranging from shock to concern. People are talking about how the betting demon Crush was defeated, and now even Neo has been destroyed by this new powerful guy. The faces in the crowd show clear signs of fear and astonishment at the display of power. The crowd erupts, shouting that a great new guy has appeared. Looking up at the fighter standing tall, the perspective shifts to show two figures watching from the distance, perhaps observing the aftermath. A worried-looking boy thinks about how the victor fought Karim, who is an A-rank warrior, head-to-head. The boy concludes that the common players from the back alleys have no chance against this new powerhouse. However, someone points out that even the sergeant is present here, and they note that the new guy seems similar to Karim. The thought continues, suggesting this person is probably much more than just a monster. Up above, hands clutch money in a bottle, while the person below stares intensely, showing grim determination. The chapter title card appears briefly, marking the end of the initial fighting sequence. The scene transitions to a quiet evening sky, signaling a change of setting. They have moved to a restaurant where the table is loaded with delicious food like grilled chicken, skewers, and sandwiches. The group is eating heartily, and the main character notes that they hadn't even eaten anything proper before this feast. The younger boy nervously tells the main character not to eat too much, reminding him they already spent half the prize money on this meal. The main fighter enjoys his food immensely, saying it's not bad because it's been a long time since he ate a real meal. The woman with red hair is also enjoying her food with a slightly unsettling, happy expression. The man jokes darkly, asking how many plates he's eaten, and then laughs, saying it's not bad to lose the world. The woman gets angry and slams the table, reacting violently to his inappropriate comment, startling the boy. The fight escalates into shouting, with the woman warning him about things that shouldn't be said, and another person telling them both to stop being a nuisance. A cheerful man interrupts the argument, recognizing the main fighter as Champ Tiger and praising his great match earlier. This stranger enthusiastically offers to buy the fighter a drink to celebrate. The main fighter politely refuses alcohol, stating it interferes with muscle growth, which the stranger accepts, saying he'll buy something else instead. The man then insists on getting a beer for himself and a protein drink for the fighter. The stranger, ordering drinks, asks the fighter about his background, curious about his performance. A protein shake with a grilled garnish arrives, and the stranger then asks the boy what the drink is, clearly unfamiliar with it. The stranger is amazed that the fighter knocked down 13 players in his debut, calling him a monster. He compliments the fighter's talent but admits he's never seen him in the Empire before. The stranger playfully asks if the fighter is from Manhwa, to which the fighter reacts with confused surprise. The stranger laughs it off, saying he was just kidding about Manhwa. The main fighter, still confused, asks what Manhwa is, showing he is completely out of touch with current affairs. The stranger is shocked that he doesn't know Manhwa, asking where he's been hiding, to which the fighter replies he was in a mountain unit and doesn't know the modern world. The main fighter asks for an explanation of Manhwa, prompting the stranger to describe it. The stranger explains that Manhwa is nothing but the worst crime syndicate, taking a big drink of beer. He continues, saying that because of the town's nature, it's where outcasts and people lagging in life end up. It is explained that the Empire ignores Manhwa, treating it as a place where all the garbage and wanted criminals are gathered. Manhwa is the exception that the Empire doesn't touch, and once someone gets involved, it's over for them. The younger boy is visibly scared, realizing there is such a dangerous place, and asks if there is anything else he should be careful about. The stranger finds the question funny, commenting that the spy bastard talks well, while the main fighter silently considers that this place might actually be good for him. The stranger pauses and then says there is one more important thing to watch out for in the back streets. He warns that there are rumors circulating that he has returned. The main fighter is suddenly very alert, asking what that is, referring to chicken and beer Friday. The man explains that this person is the #1 strongest in the underground arena. He mentions that this individual considered chicken and beer more sacred than even parla salma. The main fighter simply says the drink tastes good, prompting the stranger to ask if he is famous. The main fighter looks confused and asks who this person is, showing his ignorance of local legends. The stranger teases him for coming from a really tall mountain and then tells him to let him know if he ever fights this person. He reveals that this feared individual is wanted for blasphemy and is an A-rank warrior. The scene shifts to a different location, possibly the place where this chicken and beer Friday person is, showing a man reacting to the news. The camera focuses on a large, muscular man who has just turned around, knocking over a chair in his sudden movement. The waiter is distressed, crying that this is the 27th plate ordered, and the strong man cuts him off. A pair of intense eyes stares out from the darkness, demanding attention. The large man declares that right now is his sacred chicken and beer time. He demands to know how someone dares to interrupt his sacred time, revealing himself to be the former A-rank warrior, Friday. The story starts in the world of Marley, a dark and strange place. The surroundings look broken and gloomy under a purplish sky. A terrifying, monstrous figure is revealed, standing under the dark clouds, declaring that this place is ruled by the Ma tribe. Close up on the creature's hand, which is covered in many staring eyes, as a single, menacing eye peers out from the shadow. The monster's huge, wide-open mouth with too many teeth is shown, emphasizing its monstrous nature. Away from the darkness, soldiers stand watching a large pile of something burning in a fire, creating a lot of smoke. The creature speaks again, wondering if there is a different world beyond the walls. A woman with striking red and orange hair, holding a glowing torch, thinks about how her mother disappeared, overlooking a peaceful-looking town below. The woman recalls that portals also open up, and the main character believes that these events cannot be a simple coincidence. Two shadowy figures are shown, one with a skeletal face wearing a blue cloak and another menacing figure whose face is hidden. A massive, horrifying creature with bloody protrusions on its back is shown, followed by a dark, armed figure appearing with a forceful sound. The dark figure firmly states the need to find their mother while a horde of glowing eyes watches from the shadows below. A vast, dark mass of shadowy figures fills the landscape, seeming to look up at the main character. The dark hero stands ready, facing a massive, spiky maw, preparing for a fight. The creature commands the hero to turn while the hero's intense, glowing eyes show determination. This situation is making everything feel upside down, marking the end of the introductory sequence for this chapter. The chapter number, -15, is shown, and then the scene shifts to a more normal setting, showing a building labeled a bar inn. Inside the inn, a young man and the woman with red hair sit facing the main character, who sits looking down, while the younger man mentions chicken and beer Friday. The younger man shows a picture of an older man to the main character, whom he says was ranked 8th on the A-rank list. The young man points to the picture, mentioning the man was 8th on the A-rank list, and then the main character sitting across the table looks uninterested and says he can't focus because it's funny. The younger man continues, saying that even though the person's nickname sounds funny, his skill is impressive. He then asks if the main character remembers Karim. The main character, with a goatee, replies that he remembers Karim, and the scene shifts to show the muscular man from before looking powerful. The muscular man, identified as Friday, is shown to be ranked higher than Karim, who is 10th, meaning Friday is much stronger. The main character then gives a slight, knowing smirk. The red-haired woman looks serious and asks, "Sergeant, how can I help you?" The woman asks if the main character is stupid, to which he replies no, and questions how she can help him get stronger. The young man with light hair assures the woman that he is sure she is worried about the situation, but still asks her to hang around with him. The main character then says he just thought of a very funny plan for this situation. The scene moves outside to a back street under a bright sky, leading to a small establishment. The camera shows a large, muscular man with a distinct mustache sitting at a table, enjoying a beer and a plate of fried chicken. The man picks up a piece of chicken, saying it looks good. A sound effect plays as the man takes a bite, showing him completely delighted by the crispy chicken, saying it's great. He praises the chicken, noting it is perfectly fried with a clean oil taste and that the cook must have used good quality oil. He also mentions a subtle spiciness that kicks in. He continues eating, saying that even after several pieces, the chicken doesn't get too greasy, which makes the person next to him comment that he knows how to eat chicken properly, calling him Friday Hyanim. The main character laughs, saying seeing Friday eat is making him drool and asking for a bite. Friday sternly warns the main character that he's only alive right now because the chicken tastes so fantastic today, telling him to stop testing his limits and get lost. The main character insists he just wants to be close to Friday. Friday questions why the main character thinks he is there to fight, stating that no one dares to interrupt his chicken and beer time in this village. The main character addresses him as Champ Tiger and asks if he saw the match, implying Friday must know why he is there. The main character addresses him as Mr. Friday, Champ Tiger, and asks if he knows the reason he fights in those matches. Friday states that the taste of chicken after a victory is very special, but the challenger won't know that now. Friday declares that right now, the challenger is like a chicken at his level, and he won't feel anything worthwhile fighting him. Friday tells the challenger to go away if the words have sunk in. The challenger smirks, ignoring Friday's warning, and then Friday demands to know why he is eating trash like chicken. Friday starts listing reasons why chicken is unhealthy, like lacking minerals and being high in calories and cholesterol, and how messy it is to eat. Friday argues that it's better to spend more money on nutritious and easy-to-eat pizza. The challenger responds with an intense look, asking if Friday wishes to die. The challenger threatens that if Friday avoids him like a coward, he will make him admit that pizza tastes better than chicken. Friday's companion remarks on the ridiculous argument and how the challenger knows how to anger people off. Another person notes the tense atmosphere feels like the calm before the storm and decides to take their order away. The eyes of the challenger and then Friday are shown in close-up, showing intense focus. Friday asks if they should head to the arena, while his hand starts glowing with an icy blue energy. The challenger asks, "Right now?" Looking tense. Friday's eyes glow intensely, and he replies with a threat, "I'll break all your bones." One man with glowing eyes and a fierce look asks, "Right now?" The powerful man continues his threat, saying he will break all of the opponent's bones. Another man looks ready to flip the table, where fried chicken and a drink are placed. The man who looked like he would flip the table smiles and only cares about your chicken. The older, muscular man gets super angry, glowing with energy, and yells out a big curse. He rushes forward with a glowing fist attack, while the younger man sits calmly at the table with his beer and food. The sound effects suggest the chicken and drink are still safe on the table. The muscular man stops his charge, looking shocked. He mutters "oh shit" and then complains about how cheap his opponent is before demanding, "So?" The opponent in shadow asks if he will fight or not, putting serious pressure on him. Seeing the plate of fried chicken, the younger man finally accepts the challenge. Agreeing with a dark smile, the protagonist says, "As you desire," and then warns the other man that his funeral will be in the dumping grounds. The muscular man gets very angry about the chicken again and screams at him not to touch or spill even a single piece of it. A small chef character seems touched by this display of caring for the food, while the protagonist puts his hands up in surrender. The protagonist calmly announces that the match will happen in a week and that he will inform the spectators. The muscular man yells that he was manipulated using the fried chicken, and now he will make the protagonist pay with his life. The protagonist calmly walks away from the table, saying he will wait in the arena. He puts his hands in his pockets with a smug look on his face. As he leaves, he tells the other man to eat as much chicken as he wants in the meantime, laughing maniacally as he exits. The muscular man continues to laugh wildly, frustrated by the situation. The scene shows the laughing man towering over the still angry, muscular opponent. This section seems to be a chapter title card for chapter 16. The story shifts to St. John's hideout, showing a simple shack in the woods under a bright sky. A sergeant greets someone coming up the stairs and asks if he was training outside today, to which the younger man happily replies he was setting up a match with Friday, using chicken to easily threaten him. The sergeant, looking slightly taken aback by the chicken threat, just says, "I see." The focus briefly returns to the two men from the previous confrontation, showing the angry reaction of the muscular man. This is another brief separator or title card. We are back at St. John's hideout under a clear sky. The sergeant asks if the person walking up the stairs has been training outdoors, and the person replies he was arranging a match with Friday. The person boasts that threatening Friday with chicken was very easy, and the sergeant just responds with a hesitant "ooh" before saying "I see." The sergeant then reveals some background information. For over 10 years, Friday traveled across the country. Friday can find all the chefs from his favorite chicken restaurants and force them to perfect their chicken cooking skills just for him. The protagonist is shown looking at many plates of delicious-looking chicken as the narration reveals the number of chefs Friday held captive was about 300. A very old journal is shown, titled The Empire's Record Journal, leading to the protagonist's reflection. The protagonist admits that the food must have been amazing, and he also loves chicken. He then asks the sergeant if he is regretting his actions now and questions why he did what he did. Another woman intervenes, telling Jun to calm down, which makes Jun look up and question Marley. Marley, with striking red hair and a powerful aura, states that the sergeant always plays dirty and has chosen a very dangerous method this time. She points out, however, that the sergeant is not a mindless person, supporting his actions by saying, "That's what I've been saying." The protagonist reminds them that they once said they trusted him, which Marley acknowledges. The protagonist then asks who taught them that logic, and Marley responds with a slight laugh. "Hood." The protagonist tells them all right, and puts his hand in his pocket. He asks them to trust him just this once. He promises to show them something awesome, and the scene jumps forward 1 week to the match day. The protagonist and the muscular man, Friday, stand facing each other in a dusty arena surrounded by a dark crowd. The crowd makes excited noises as the protagonist stares forward intensely. Friday taunts the protagonist, asking if he got scared now. The protagonist calmly replies that it's too late to back down now, stating, "Victory or not, I'll kill you." Friday is shocked by this declaration, but the protagonist simply tells him to shut up because he is concentrating. As Friday stares down, ready to fight, the protagonist calls him a "you punk." An announcer in the crowd is shouting about how amazing the atmosphere is right from the start. The announcer expresses excitement that the crowd loves such a potentially bloody match at the dumping grounds. The protagonist stands still, looking composed, as the announcer says, "The best match here will start now." The protagonist gives a sinister smile and muses to himself, "I wonder." He reflects on all the techniques he learned, wondering why his defense techniques were always the best. He then states that his answer for why his defense is best is that he was deeply influenced by. The protagonist attacks with incredible speed, surrounded by motion lines drawing a blade-like energy from his movement. The focus shifts to Friday, as the text proclaims the technique being used is Park Byung-jang's absurd series. Friday manages to meet the protagonist's attack with his own powerful strike. The move used by the protagonist is identified as an oblique kick, causing Friday to react with surprise. Friday looks stunned as he is forced into a defensive, hunched position. The protagonist clenches his fists, gathering power. The protagonist unleashes a massive punch on the downed Friday, with huge impact lines showing the force. Friday looks up, telling the protagonist not to be so arrogant. As Friday gets a hold of the protagonist's face, he yells at him to lower his gaze. The protagonist forces Friday's head down with his foot, making Friday cry out in pain. The technique is named as Park Byung-jang's absurd series, number 2. The protagonist uses the momentum to execute a powerful counter move, flipping Friday over his back with great force. Friday screams as he is tossed around, while the crowd cheers. Friday asks if the protagonist prepared a couch for his coffin. The protagonist stands over Friday, channeling a powerful energy upwards. He shouts a threat that if he hits Friday this way, Friday will break into pieces. A character named Marley looks on, holding his hat, exclaiming that the protagonist is crazy. The protagonist tells Marley he will be gone for a week and not to disturb him, leaving Marley shocked, wondering what kind of training he just did. The protagonist stands over the clearly defeated Friday, telling him it's too early to lose. Friday admits that he also has a sense of humor. He states that in an arena like this, he won't do a single thing. The protagonist reacts with utter confusion at Friday's statement, shown by the, in a speech bubble. Friday unleashes a massive burst of blue energy, powering up significantly. Friday grins, saying that today's chicken and beer. The protagonist smiles back, looking confident despite Friday's surge of power. Friday declares that the chicken and beer will be very delicious as he strikes out with his supercharged attack. A massive burst of blue energy explodes outward from a muscular man crouching low. The man with white hair and a stern face prepares for something, while another man watches with a chilling thought about chicken and beer. The watcher gives a wide, slightly unnerving smile as the blue energy continues to glow below. The white-haired man's action results in a loud sound, and he unleashes more energy. The powerful man lands heavily after an action, while the watcher observes from above. The chapter number 17 is displayed, setting the scene in what looks like an underground fighting pit with wooden structures. The fight takes place in a square arena surrounded by spectators hidden in the dark shadows above. The white-haired man powers up, preparing his attack, while a man wearing glasses in the crowd looks shocked and calls out. The man in glasses asks if Neo is watching, clearly distressed by what he sees. Neo confirms he is watching Crush, focused on the events happening in this underground location. Neo focuses on the current situation, commenting on Friday's ability being used. The speaker expresses surprise at seeing Friday use his power, and then Friday starts to explain his ability. Friday reveals his ability is called Sparkling, which is a body manipulation magic. This ability changes his body's properties to match those of carbonic acid, and the other fighter, Champ Tiger, looks on. Friday mentions his carbonated drinks technique, readying an attack. Friday declares that Champ Tiger shook it long enough, suggesting he activated something. Friday unleashes a concentrated vertical blast of green-tinged energy downwards. The attack is named Sparkling Shot, as the blast shoots out toward the ground. Champ Tiger is hit hard by the initial force, letting out a pained yell as he is thrown upwards. The white-haired man, Friday, seems to be gathering more energy around his hands. Friday powers up further with a move called Sparkling Booster. Friday slams down with immense force, impacting the ground where Champ Tiger is recoiling. A large impact sound emphasizes the heavy blow landed by Friday. Champ Tiger is sent flying after being crushed into the ground. Champ Tiger recovers from the impact, looking stunned and injured, covering his bloody mouth. He quietly reflects on the situation, muttering sparkling to himself. He remembers that Jun taught him something important about his magic. He recalls that shaking the carbonated magic is the way to unleash its full power. The technique is simple but very versatile and powerful as he faces the returning Friday. However, Friday's move has a weakness that Champ Tiger is about to exploit. Champ Tiger reacts with surprise as Friday's hand moves quickly toward him. Friday catches Champ Tiger off guard and slams him hard. Text introduces Park Byung-jang, noting this is his third move in the Absurd series. A large impact sound shows Friday driving Champ Tiger into the floor. Champ Tiger crashes down, feeling the massive force of the attack. The spectators, including the man in glasses and another bearded man, watch the brutal exchange. The spectators watch the ongoing fight, while Champ Tiger's internal monologue continues about Friday's weakness. He remembers that using the power leaves Friday momentarily defenseless when he shakes his magic. Friday launches another powerful downward strike after recovering. Champ Tiger yells, "You idiot!" directed at Friday as he tries to maneuver. Champ Tiger questions why Friday didn't learn from their previous exchange. Friday ignores him and shouts to keep attacking, promising that Sparkling will activate eventually. Friday unleashes his next attack, the Sparkling Meteor, with another powerful upward blast. The attack creates intense vibrations and force as it launches. The Sparkling Meteor hits with a huge explosion. Friday looks determined, while Champ Tiger thinks to himself that he is getting used to the attacks. He believes that as long as he can see the gaps, he can win this fight. Friday smiles menacingly, clearly confident in his next move. Champ Tiger is hit and thrown upside down in midair by the force of the blast. The man in glasses advises Champ Tiger to use his power to change his path. The speaker notes that Champ Tiger's strength and speed are not enough, expressing disbelief he can fight with just his hands. The older men in the crowd comment that Friday is not the only surprising fighter, drawing attention to Champ Tiger. They notice Champ Tiger is still smiling, and Friday vows to finish him with the next attack. Friday asks if Champ Tiger is getting scared, noting the fight is ending sooner than he thought. Champ Tiger grins, licking his lips, and reveals he was also planning a final move. Both fighters gather their energy for a decisive clash. Friday launches himself upwards to meet the descending Champ Tiger. Both fighters charge at each other with glowing fists, and Champ Tiger anticipates the move. The move is called Sparkling Rush, and Champ Tiger prepares for the impact. Friday hits Champ Tiger with a powerful rush attack. Champ Tiger mentally prepares himself, knowing he has to endure the hit to execute his plan. He plans to avoid vital points and wait for Friday to run out of sparkling energy so he can finish him then. The onlookers react with growing tension and worry about the fight's outcome. The red-haired girl watching seems concerned, softly calling out Sergeant. Champ Tiger notes that Friday has slowed down, giving him an opening. Champ Tiger realizes his moment has arrived and shouts, "It's time." Champ Tiger prepares to use Park Byung-jang's lethal move. Friday reacts with a slight grin just as the attack is launched towards him. Champ Tiger executes a sharp move, surprising Friday. Champ Tiger ducks low, seemingly trapped beneath the towering, shadowy figure of Friday. Friday stares down at Champ Tiger, asking if he is dizzy, calling him by his nickname, Jaejan Tiger. Friday explains that during his sparkling attack, he managed to smear some of the sparkling substance onto Champ Tiger's body. Friday shows a hand gathering energy which seems to be affecting the particles on Champ Tiger. He admits he didn't expect to have to use this particular technique against Champ Tiger. Friday tells Champ Tiger he should be proud, as his ability is something Friday doesn't have in his data. The young spectator watching looks utterly shocked, realizing what is about to happen. He realizes this is an ability unknown to his data, while Friday readies his final move. Friday's muscles tense up as he moves, bidding Champ Tiger goodbye. Friday channels a massive amount of energy into his fist, preparing for the final detonation. Champ Tiger braces himself, ready to endure the final blast. Friday's glowing hand hovers near Champ Tiger, ready to trigger the reaction. A huge sound effect indicates the activation of Friday's trap. The resulting energy surge throws Champ Tiger back while he stares at Friday. Friday looks slightly surprised, thinking the reaction is big. He names the reaction effect Mentos, comparing it to the soda reaction. Friday explains that the sparkling he left on Champ Tiger's body is a high-pressure, violent molecular material. He finishes by stating it'll explode, and Champ Tiger starts to erupt with blue energy from within. A massive explosion erupts from Champ Tiger's location, shooting upwards. The explosion blasts outward, causing massive destruction to the arena floor. Dust and debris settle as the spectators look on in shock, and Champ Tiger is seen falling back, heavily injured. Champ Tiger looks up in pain and defeat after surviving the deadly internal explosion. The scene starts with a wide, hazy view, perhaps showing the aftermath of something intense, with the audience below looking up. A severely beaten man, Park Byung-jang, kneels down, looking up in pain or exhaustion. A close-up on the man's face shows his eyes wide open, looking towards the sky, suggesting he is going through something extreme. A spectator with light blue hair covers his mouth in shock, unable to believe what he is seeing. The spectator thinks it is all because of him, remembering the powerful technique that was used. He questions himself, wondering why he didn't have any information about such a powerful move, and he starts to cry, wondering if he is even the best spy. A woman with bright red hair looks on with a stern expression, perhaps unimpressed or calculating. She clenches her fist tightly, showing her tension or reaction to the events unfolding. Park Byung-jang is seen kneeling, facing away from a massive, imposing figure standing above him, surrounded by smoke. The large man, Champ Tiger, tells the defeated man that it's too bad, explaining that if he hadn't insulted the chicken, he wouldn't have killed him. Champ Tiger reflects that the fight was the best he'd had in a while, even though he was about to end Park Byung-jang's life. Champ Tiger pauses for a moment, saying however, before continuing his thoughts. He states clearly that this was the best fight he's had in a while, calling the kneeling man Champ Tiger again, though the kneeling man looks defeated. Champ Tiger turns and walks away from the fallen figure, leaving the audience watching with tension. The focus shifts to the heavily wounded body of the man who is on the ground, showing deep, dark gashes across his skin. His hand touches the ground, and a dark energy seems to seep out around him as the scene transitions to a stark red background. Against a vibrant red backdrop, a dark, chaotic energy form rises up behind Champ Tiger, indicating a major change or power surge. Champ Tiger sweats profusely, his eyes wide with shock as he witnesses whatever is happening. He stands up straight, seemingly regaining his composure while looking down at the spot where the other fighter was. The defeated fighter is seen stirring, with black wisps rising from his body, suggesting something is happening internally. The focus is on Park Byung-jang's injured body as he looks up with a fierce, perhaps crazed expression. A narrative explains that Park Byung-jang was sent to the world without ability because he displeased the goddess Parla, with a vision of the goddess and another man appearing. The narration continues, stating that at this very moment, something significant is happening to Park Byung-jang as he is shown seemingly about to react. The man named Friday initiated a powerful mana explosion inside Park Byung-jang's body. This action by Friday has awakened something powerful within Park Byung-jang. A diagram shows the human silhouette glowing with colorful lines, representing awakened internal energy pathways. The result is that Park Byung-jang's body is about to change drastically as dark energy erupts around him. It is stated that his body is now enlightened by magic. A close-up on Park Byung-jang's intense eye shows his transformation is complete, with black energy covering him. The chapter marker appears, signifying the end of this sequence and the main part of the chapter. Park Byung-jang stands up, looking utterly transformed, with dark energy radiating from him and a mask covering his lower face. A very tight shot on his eyes shows fierce determination, his face still bearing signs of his previous injuries. The crowd, including a blue-haired boy and the red-haired woman, watch with sheer terror and anxiety. The narration explains that everyone held their breath. They were not hiding from the beast, but holding their breath to completely hide their presence, and everyone froze up instinctively. Park Byung-jang stands amidst the frozen, terrified crowd, his new form radiating power. Champ Tiger is shocked, saying he can't believe it, thinking the other man survived being hit by a Mentos attack. He quickly corrects himself, thinking, no, before that, and looks on in disbelief. Champ Tiger wonders what that power is, as Park Byung-jang stands fully transformed before him. Champ Tiger braces himself, readying for another round, perhaps saying, one more time. Sparkling energy appears around Park Byung-jang's feet as he leaps up with surprising speed. Champ Tiger reels back from a sudden, unexpected blow, blood spattering from his face, clearly caught off guard. Park Byung-jang executes a rapid attack, sending Champ Tiger flying backward. Park Byung-jang lands powerfully as Champ Tiger is driven into the ground with immense force. Champ Tiger spits blood, crying out in pain and anger, calling Park Byung-jang a bitch. Park Byung-jang counters the enraged Champ Tiger with a glowing, energized punch aimed at his face. The impact is devastating, shown by the shockwave and the sound effect of the collision. A graphic depiction of the force hitting Champ Tiger's chest area, perhaps showing cracked ribs or internal damage. The sheer force of the blow sends Champ Tiger crashing violently through the wooden structure. Champ Tiger manages to sit up against a broken wall, laughing weakly and coughing up blood, seemingly in disbelief of his own state. He stares at his bloody hand, still laughing, as Park Byung-jang approaches him. Park Byung-jang delivers a fierce kick towards the recovering Champ Tiger. The kick connects with brutal force, sending more debris and blood flying. The powerful blows continue to land, showcasing Park Byung-jang's overwhelming new strength. More impacts rattle Champ Tiger as Park Byung-jang unleashes his fury. Champ Tiger's hand weakly grips the splintered wooden floor, still enduring the onslaught. The crowd watches in horror, tears streaming down their faces as the battle rages on. Park Byung-jang looms over the fallen Champ Tiger, his foot ready to stomp down. He brings his full weight down onto Champ Tiger, causing a massive explosion of dirt and debris. The dust settles, showing the devastating aftermath on the ground. Park Byung-jang slowly rises from the dust cloud, his dark energy still swirling, his eyes glowing menacingly. He laughs maniacally over the crushed Champ Tiger, enjoying the destruction. The spectators look on, utterly terrified by the monstrous display of power. Terrifying full-body shot of Park Byung-jang, his face contorted into a monstrous grin, towering over the flattened area where the fight ended. Back in the viewing area, the blue-haired boy and the red-haired woman look downwardly at the destruction. The red-haired woman senses that something is wrong, looking intently at the scene below. Park Byung-jang confronts the fallen Champ Tiger, asking him why he is crying so sadly and calling him by name. He lands one final, decisive blow to Champ Tiger's face. Champ Tiger is sent reeling from the final attack. Champ Tiger, severely beaten, finally understands what Park Byung-jang is going through: mana overload. Park Byung-jang stands amidst the chaos, enveloped in the dark energy of his condition. The blue-haired boy slaps his hands on the table, explaining in realization, "I see." He confirms that Park Byung-jang is suffering from mana overload, where his mana is running wild. The narration explains this is a rare phenomenon that has only happened twice before, showing a spectral outline of a magically enlightened body. It is described as a rare genetic condition that occurs when someone born without magic suddenly gains it, showing an illustration of a horned child sleeping. These individuals gain magic, but their mana and life energy are rapidly consumed. This process leads them to exhaustion and ultimately death, as Park Byung-jang is shown to be close to this fate. Park Byung-jang, fully engulfed in his dark power, stands powerfully despite his condition. Champ Tiger, barely able to speak, warns Park Byung-jang not to die from mana overload, insisting that he won't allow it. Champ Tiger roars that Park Byung-jang must die by his hands because he insulted his chicken. Park Byung-jang dismisses the loud threat, stating it's too loud, as he stands ready for the next confrontation. He declares to Sergeant, presumably Champ Tiger, that he will beat him into a pulp until nothing is left of him. Park Byung-jang viciously adds that he will grind him into a porridge, prompting an outburst from someone recognizing him as Park Byung-jang, "You crazy bastard." Park Byung-jang stares back with glowing red eyes, fueled by his rage and strange power. The blue-haired boy tries to get the attention of the red-haired woman, Miss Marley, asking if she sees this. Miss Marley angrily demands to know if this is what he meant by showing her something. She furiously asks if this terrifying display is all he could show her. Someone calls out to Miss Marley, looking surprised. Marley shouts angrily, demanding to know if what she saw was all the revenge was about. The focus shifts to the eyes of the fighter, intensely focused on Marley's outburst. Marley, in a rage, asks if the fighter's revenge was only this little. A young man tries to stop Marley, but she yells to be let go and demands the fighter's name. Meanwhile, some onlookers comment that Marley must have bet everything on Champ Tiger. The onlookers whisper about giving Egu to him, as the fighter in the dark, monstrous form stands ready. The fighter, now fully visible with a terrifying, sharp-toothed mask of black energy, questions what Marley meant by my revenge. A beautiful, pale-haired woman with horns appears, gently reaching out with a glowing hand. This serene figure tells the fighter to just think of it as starting from the beginning again, as the scene goes dark with anticipation. A powerful black fist smashes forward, and the name Parla. Irrevealed. The fighter roars in defiance as the battle intensifies. The fighter's monstrous form is shown ready for action, while Marley and the young man watch with shocked expressions. Sergeant Park, covered in blood and looking determined, prepares for a massive clash. A heavy blow connects with the dark-covered face of the opponent. The impact causes an explosion of debris as the fighter recoils slightly from the force. More heavy impacts are exchanged between the two fighters, indicated by onomatopoeia. Blood spatters are left floating in the air after the intense exchange. The narration explains that Sergeant Park started hitting himself when his body was not responding well. He was hitting himself, trying to force his body to obey, swinging his fist relentlessly, driven by revenge. This deadly tenacity for revenge, combined with the unconscious state brought on by it, could potentially form a miracle if all that power gathered in one spot. If all that gathers, a miracle forms, and the scene shows blood dripping from a fist, leading to a challenging question. The dark-armored fighter yells out, asking Marley if they should end the fight now. Sergeant Park looks on in disbelief, calling the opponent a lunatic. The chapter number, 19, is displayed above the empty fighting arena background. Narration states that the only person who truly understood what was happening in this dumping ground was Friday. Friday laughs, questioning if what he observed was correct, and explains how the opponent used his own magic to hurt himself. By harming himself with his own magic, the opponent managed to overcome the turbulent magic without any bad side effects. However, Friday notes that this chaotic display was not a calculated move, and then addresses the opponent directly. Friday tells the fighter that he knew he was out of his mind, but now he has lost his touch as both fighters look at each other intensely. The opponent angrily asks what Friday is talking about, claiming he is in the most normal condition ever. Friday retorts that usually, the craziest person is the one who claims to be normal. The two fighters clash fists, creating a vibrant blue energy burst between them. Sergeant Park seems to correct Friday, stating the opponent is Sergeant Park, not Champ Tiger, and replies with a firm no. The fighter acknowledges Marley, saying, "Egu Marley," and then declares that even if the opponent hits himself, it doesn't matter to him. He continues, saying the opponent is the only one who dared insult his chicken and beer. The fighter declares that the opponent is his enemy whom he will never fight again, and simultaneously, Sergeant Park gathers power, looking determined. The fighter finishes by saying the opponent is the one who makes him put everything on the line to win, while the opponent's dark energy seems to be reacting. The masked fighter, covered in wounds, stands ready in a fighting stance. The young spectator notes that the opponent's mana has stabilized and he can handle it now, realizing this long fight is about to have a final decision. The crowd looks on with tense expressions as both fighters stand ready in the arena. Sergeant Park prepares his ultimate attack, as the narration points out that Friday will attack first. Sergeant Park spreads his arms wide, channeling powerful, bright green-blue energy. A massive surge of energy focuses in front of Sergeant Park's hands. The masked fighter is surprised, exclaiming that Sergeant Park used the magic on himself, and then explains that sparkling uses carbonated explosive power. The narration explains that if one uses Mentos with the most explosive power, beyond control, the strongest shot is completed, as Sergeant Park seems to unleash an incredibly volatile energy blast upwards. The masked fighter looks on as Sergeant Park prepares to attack, saying, "Here I come." The masked fighter taunts Sergeant Park, saying he is too relaxed and even warned him about the attack. The masked fighter senses something behind him as Sergeant Park's massive attack rushes forward. The masked fighter realizes the attack is coming from behind him, exclaiming in surprise. He knows it is too late to avoid the massive incoming energy. The scene shows the green-blue energy of Sergeant Park's attack making contact with the dark energy enveloping the masked fighter. A direct clash occurs between the dark fist and the glowing green fist. The resulting explosion is huge, sending shockwaves throughout the arena, momentarily engulfing Sergeant Park. The masked fighter is seen executing a swift, powerful spin or cut attack, moving quickly through the aftermath of the explosion. The masked fighter lands a hard blow on Sergeant Park's face, and the narrator notes that the mana is dissipating. Someone urgently tells Sergeant Park to try and hold the energy a bit longer. The command is directed to Sergeant Park, who is struggling to contain the massive power. Sergeant Park is slammed into the ground by the force, and the masked fighter is shown connecting more hits as the sound effects echo. Sergeant Park grits his teeth, acknowledging that even with a volatile energy, this is hard to control. The opponent shouts in disbelief, but Sergeant Park thinks to himself that even in this uncontrollable situation, a weapon from his memory can be used. Sergeant Park's arm transforms, grabbing a large shovel, ready to implement this weapon from memory. The masked fighter sees Sergeant Park gathering strength to one side and wonders if he intends to strike him. Sergeant Park realizes that even though he is almost crippled, he still has to fight this powerful opponent. Sergeant Park yells, "Ah, whatever," and screams that Marley will fix it, showing a crazed intensity. Marley looks confused, hearing this sudden change, as the narration announces Sergeant Park's new skill. Sergeant Park uses the shovel in a powerful, sweeping attack called Cutting with a Shovel, connecting with the masked fighter. Sergeant Park lies on the ground, seemingly defeated or exhausted, with wide, vacant eyes. The crowd reacts with shock and awe to the final outcome of the battle. The young man watching confirms with disbelief, he won. The masked fighter stands upright, battered but victorious as his dark energy recedes. He looks up, breathing heavily, confirming to himself, he really won. The final shot shows him standing over the defeated Sergeant Park. Sergeant Park is lying completely defeated on the ground, looking up in despair. The winner lets out a sigh, calling it a "ha fuck," and murmurs, "Really?" while Sergeant Park seems to give up. Sergeant Park accepts his fate, saying there is nothing he can do, as Marley rushes to catch him. Marley catches the heavily injured Sergeant Park, whispering his title, Sergeant. Marley asks if this outcome was what he planned, but the injured Sergeant Park replies that he doesn't think so. Marley then tells him he has done a good job, and that he will be useful now, to which Sergeant Park mutters rudely about her talking back. Marley embraces the broken Sergeant Park, asking him, "Now, shall we go back?" The story starts at St. John's hideout, a small building hidden in the dark woods. Inside, a person asks Miss Marley about the sergeant's condition, who is lying injured in a bed. Marley tells the person that the sergeant's situation is a mess, even though he looks calm for a moment. The sergeant has cuts on the outside, but the injuries inside are very bad, as Marley explains. Marley points out that his right arm, which blocked an attack, is completely shattered. Even with such terrible injuries, a memory flashes of the sergeant screaming about Marley's will fixing everything. Marley smiles gently and decides that since the sergeant fought his best, he deserves something good. She then channels a bright blue energy, preparing to do something for him. Marley says it is okay to give him a reward for his efforts. The badly injured sergeant lies still, bandaged but breathing. The chapter number 20 is shown after a brief title sequence. After a time skip, we see the outside of the hideout again, hidden by foliage, and then the inside with stairs leading up. The sergeant wakes up and sits up in bed, looking much better than before. He takes a moment to fully realize he is awake. Marley is sitting nearby, and she tells him he is finally up, calling him Sergeant. The sergeant, recognizing her, calls out Marley with a surprised look. Marley maintains a stern expression as the sergeant asks his first question. The sergeant asks how long he has been sleeping, and Marley replies it was about 8 hours. The sergeant says he's slept enough, but then gets confused by Marley's sudden short hair and asks why it changed. Marley explains that she used too much energy to heal him, Sergeant. She mentions she used 2 out of 4 rounds of her power, and the sergeant jokes, asking if his hair is his strength like Sanson. The sergeant then declares he has 2 hands, implying he is ready. The sergeant flexes his arm, showing signs of movement and recovery. He proudly states that he thinks he recovered well, which makes Marley seem pleased, saying, as expected, "I trusted you, Marley." Marley tells him to focus on recovery now, explaining that his body and her strength didn't match well. She warns him that he needs at least a month to fully recover, which the sergeant finds is too long. The sergeant immediately says 1 month is too long, but then starts thinking about something else, asking where Jun is. Jun, wearing a disguise, stands in the background looking downcast. Marley brings up the celebrity that the sergeant knocked down earlier, mentioning the chicken he also took down. She confirms the person was a big celebrity, and she mentioned the sergeant's name at the time. Marley looks annoyed that the sergeant didn't reveal his name, but fortunately he kept quiet. She then says they need to be prepared for what comes next. The scene shifts to St. Jun walking through a town setting under a bright sky. Jun, now disguised as an ordinary village girl, seems focused on her mission. The narration confirms St. Jun transformed into an ordinary village girl due to her enthusiasm during the mission. Jun looks quite cheerful and prepared in her new attire while carrying a basket. As Jun walks through the streets, she reflects that because of two people who don't know the world properly, she is the one suffering the consequences. She decides that this time, she has no other option but to seek help from a member of the organization. Jun thinks that these two people need to be ranked and given a new place to live, and she is sure Mr. Riku can help with that. The narrative introduces Riku the Serpent, a member of Manhwa's organization who uses a bakery as a front. Riku tells Jun to always come see him disguised as a woman, noting her appearance. Jun, still in disguise, wonders if she should buy some bread. Jun notices that there is no line of customers, which is unusual, and thinks that Miss Marley will like the bread. Arriving at the bakery, Jun looks confused, asking huh? As she sees the quiet street, she notices the door is open and asks what is going on, finding no customers. Jun opens the door wider and is shocked to see Mr. Riku being held captive, and she asks if all the bread is sold out. The view shifts to a destroyed area and then focuses on the shoes of an imposing figure. The baker, Riku, is shown sweating and looking terrified as several dark-clad figures surround him. A high-ranking individual with purple hair stands looking down at the scene. The purple-haired person looks intensely at the situation with a determined expression. This person asks Jun directly, "Who are you?" making Jun look incredibly shocked. Jun stammers, asking how this high-ranking person is here, looking completely terrified. The figure stands confidently with guards, and Jun wonders why this person is present. The purple-haired person smoothly acknowledges Jun, asking if she is a customer. Jun nervously replies yes, but immediately asks what is happening right now. The officer explains they are currently interrogating the bakery owner, who is a member of the Manhwa organization. The officer continues that Riku has been interrogated but refuses to talk, even under pressure. Riku groans in pain as the officer keeps up the pressure, but he still won't open his mouth. Jun looks at the struggling Riku, feeling sorry for him, and whispers, "Mr. Riku." Jun quickly says, "I'm sorry," then suddenly realizes something and exclaims, "Oh, I see," as her expression changes to one of resignation. She then says, "I don't want to get in the way, I'll go now," as a massive impact shakes the ground near the officer. The officer slams their fist into the ground, creating a crater, and warns Jun, "Don't move." The officer gives Jun a sharp, knowing look, while Jun sweats nervously. The officer then says to Jun, "You're also subject to an investigation, customer." The chapter ends by revealing the identity of the imposing figure, Han, the rank first place Imperial Knights commander.